There is a silence that many people carry, but it is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of exhaustion, of pretending to be fine while something deep inside aches. In the rush of modern life, people wear smiles like masks. Yet when the night comes and the lights go out, a whisper returns. Is this all there is? The weight of bills, the pressure of work, the endless comparisons on glowing screens, these things create a storm inside the mind. Stress feels like an invisible hand pressing on the chest. Anxiety spins like a wheel that never stops. Relationships often crack under unspoken tension, and even success tastes hollow when the heart is restless. Millions wake up every day, chasing more, yet feeling less alive. This is the pain of our time. Never enough time, never enough money, never enough love, never enough peace. But what if the solution is not in running faster? What if the answer is not outside at all, but already inside you, waiting to be seen? For thousands of years, Buddhist wisdom has spoken of a path that does not deny pain, but transforms it. It does not require you to escape your life, abandon your work, or become someone else. Instead, it teaches you to see clearly, to breathe fully, and to live with awareness. This path does not promise perfection. It promises freedom. Freedom from the endless cycle of stress, craving, and fear. Freedom to live with compassion, to rest in calmness, to find joy even in ordinary moments. This is not an abstract philosophy. It is practical guidance for the challenges of everyday life, guidance that speaks directly to the struggles of money, relationships, anxiety, and loneliness. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a glass of muddy water, shaken by every demand and disappointment. No matter how much you try to force it clear, the water only grows more disturbed. But when you stop, when you allow it to rest, the mud slowly settles and clarity returns on its own. Buddhist practice is like this resting. It does not suppress your feelings or force happiness. It allows the storm to settle so that peace can rise naturally, like sunlight breaking through clouds. The teachings of mindfulness, compassion, non-clinging, and equanimity are not foreign ideas. They are keys you already hold, waiting for you to remember. In the journey ahead, we will walk through 10 doors. Each door opens to a pain that almost everyone knows. The grip of stress, the hunger for money, the ache of broken relationships, the shadow of anxiety, the fire of anger, the chill of loneliness, the weight of regret, the fear of the future, the sting of comparison, and the quiet emptiness that success cannot fill. And for each pain, there is a teaching, a solution born from timeless wisdom, offered not as a command, but as a gentle hand leading you back home to yourself. This is not a lecture. It is not a sermon. It is a story, woven with the threads of your own life, told in the language of your struggles and your hopes. Each word is an invitation to pause, to listen, to feel, and to discover that within the very heart of your pain lies the seed of your freedom. If you allow it, these teachings will not only explain, but transform, turning the heaviness you carry into a lighter, clearer way of being. And as you listen, you may notice something subtle, the beginning of calm, a softness in your breath, a quiet reassurance that you are not broken, you are not lost. You are simply on the way home. Stress has become the background music of modern life. It hums in the office cubicles, where the glow of screens replaces the light of day. It lingers in traffic jams, in the endless line of emails, in the quiet arguments at home about money and time. People speak of being tired, but it is not the simple tiredness that sleep can fix. It is a deeper fatigue, one that clings to the bones, a restlessness that never lets go. Many people wake already exhausted, hearts racing before the first sip of coffee, as if the day has started without them, and they are already behind. The body carries it with tense shoulders, tight jaws, shallow breaths. The mind carries it with endless loops of worry, rehearsing problems that have not yet happened, replaying mistakes that cannot be changed. And the soul, though rarely named, carries the silent ache of disconnection, the feeling that something essential has been lost in the race for more. Truth is that stress is not only about what happens outside. Two people can face the same situation, and one collapses under pressure while the other stays calm. This difference reveals something vital. Stress is not simply the weight of events. It is the weight of how we hold them. Like a hand grasping too tightly to a rope, the tighter we cling, the more the rope burns. The problem is not the rope itself, but the way we grip it. In the same way, modern life pulls us, but the suffering multiplies when the mind resists, when it cannot let go, when it demands that everything should be different than it is. That resistance is what turns challenge into torment. Without awareness, we live in constant fight or flight, the body flooded with hormones designed for survival, not for daily living. We are wired for danger, yet we use the same wiring to answer emails, pay bills, and plan schedules. No wonder we feel so tired. We are running from tigers that no longer exist, yet the fear feels just as real. Consider a young woman standing in a grocery store late at night. She is staring at the shelves, eyes glazed, heart beating too fast. She has worked 10 hours, argued with her partner, worried about the bills, and now the choice between brands of cereal feels impossible. It is not the cereal, of course, but the buildup of stress that leaves her paralyzed. Or imagine a man sitting at his desk, staring at a blank page. The deadline presses, his phone buzzes, and his mind races with thoughts of failure. He clenches his fists, his jaw, his stomach, and no amount of effort can push the words to come. Both of these lives are ordinary, yet the weight feels extraordinary. Stress makes small moments feel impossible because it magnifies the mind's resistance to life as it is. Buddhist wisdom does not deny stress. It does not tell us to ignore it or to simply push through. Instead, it invites us to see stress clearly, to understand its roots. The teachings speak of craving and aversion, of clinging and running away as the fires that keep the mind restless. Stress arises not only from what we face, but from the way we insist on control, the way we demand certainty in a world that is always changing. The endless cycle of wanting more, of fearing loss, of fighting what is this cycle is what creates the storm. Yet within this storm lies the possibility of calm, not because the storm stops, but because we learn how to rest in the center of it. Imagine for a moment that your stress is like a guest who arrives at your door uninvited. Most of us slam the door, or we fight to push the guest out. But the more we resist, the harder the guest pounds. What if instead you opened the door, invited stress to sit down and listened? This does not mean giving up or letting it control you. It means acknowledging its presence without fear. In Buddhist practice, this is the beginning of mindfulness, a simple act of noticing. When you notice the racing heart, the shallow breath, the restless thoughts, you create a gap between you and the stress. That gap is the first taste of freedom, the reminder that you are not the storm itself, but the sky in which the storm passes. A simple breath can change everything. When you bring your attention to the inhale and the exhale, you are no longer trapped in the past or the future. You are here in this moment, with the steady rhythm of life itself. The breath does not need to be forced or controlled. It only needs to be seen, felt, welcomed. Each breath carries a message. It is safe to slow down. It is safe to let go. The nervous system, which has been on high alert, begins to soften. Shoulders drop, the jaw loosens, the chest opens. What seemed impossible a moment ago becomes manageable, not because the situation has changed, but because you have. This is not magic. It is biology aligned with awareness. It is the wisdom of the body, remembering how to return to balance. Think of a firefighter who walks calmly into a burning building. It is not because the fire is less dangerous, but because he has trained his mind not to panic. Stress still arises, but it does not own him. In the same way, when we train with mindfulness, we do not erase stress. We learn how to stand steady within it. The fire may burn, but our mind can remain clear. We can respond instead of react. We can choose compassion instead of anger. We can act with wisdom instead of fear. This is the gift of the practice. Not a life free of problems, but a life free of being consumed by them. Many people believe peace comes only after solving every problem, finishing every task, reaching every goal. But that moment never comes. The to-do list grows, the bills return, the future remains uncertain. Waiting for stress to end before finding peace is like waiting for waves to stop before entering the ocean. The waves will never stop, but you can learn to swim. You can learn to float. You can learn to trust the water instead of fighting it. Buddhist teachings remind us that calm is not the absence of stress. It is the presence of awareness. When you see clearly, the weight lifts. The same life, the same challenges, but carried with lightness instead of heaviness. This shift does not come from escape, but from turning inward, from meeting yourself with honesty and kindness. As you listen now, you may notice your own body. Perhaps there is a tightness in your chest, a heaviness in your mind. Instead of pushing it away, allow it to be. Take one slow breath in and out. Feel how even in the middle of your stress, there is space. Space to breathe, space to pause, space to choose. This space is your doorway to freedom. You do not need to wait for tomorrow or for your life to be different. You can step through now with this breath, this moment. And once you discover this space, you can return to it again and again until it becomes your natural home. This is the beginning of calm, not found in escape, but in presence, in the deep and quiet awareness that nothing needs to be perfect for you to be at peace. Stress often hides beneath the surface like an underground river, unseen but always moving, shaping the land above. You may look fine on the outside, smiling at colleagues, nodding at friends, but inside, the current is strong, pulling you in directions you did not choose. This invisible current explains why so many feel exhausted, even when nothing dramatic seems to happen. It is not the single big crisis that drains us most, but the steady trickle of small pressures, like drops of water wearing down stone. A phone that never stops buzzing, a calendar filled without space to breathe, the unspoken expectation to always be available, always productive, always on. These demands, though ordinary, erode the spirit over time. Without awareness, we forget what silence feels like, what it means to be truly present. We become like travelers running endlessly on a treadmill, moving but never arriving. Buddhist teachings describe this restless state as being trapped in the wheel of becoming, the endless cycle of craving and resistance. Stress is the natural child of this cycle. We crave success, recognition, comfort, control. We resist uncertainty, failure, discomfort, loss. Between craving and resisting, the mind is pulled apart, never at rest. It is like holding two ropes, one dragging you forward, the other pulling you back. No matter how strong you are, the tension breaks you down. The wisdom of the Buddha invites us to loosen our grip, to see the ropes for what they are, illusions of control. The world will not stop changing. Problems will not vanish. But when you no longer fight each moment, the suffering lessens. You still walk the path, but the burden is lighter because you carry it differently. There is a well-known story of a monk who asked his students to imagine carrying a glass of water. At first, the glass feels light. Hold it for a minute, and it is easy. Hold it for an hour, and your arm aches. Hold it for a day, and the weight becomes unbearable. The glass never changed. It was always the same water, the same weight. What changed was the way we held it. Stress is like that glass. The longer we hold our worries without setting them down, the heavier they become. The practice of mindfulness is like putting the glass down, even if only for a moment. That small release restores strength, allows the hand to rest, and when you pick it up again, the burden feels lighter. The problems may still be there, but the suffering no longer overwhelms you. In practical life, this means creating pauses. When you notice the quick breath, the racing mind, the urge to react, that is the moment to stop. Even 3 breaths can change the entire pattern. Instead of snapping at a loved one, you breathe. Instead of sending an angry message, you breathe. Instead of spiraling into panic about tomorrow, you breathe. In those breaths, you discover freedom. It is small at first, but like a seed planted in fertile soil, it grows with practice. Over time, the nervous system rewires itself. The brain learns that not every challenge is a threat. Not every demand requires panic. Calm becomes the default, not the exception. Modern science now confirms what ancient teachings have long known. Mindful breathing lowers stress hormones, calms the heart rate, strengthens immunity. But beyond science, there is a deeper truth. Mindfulness reconnects you with yourself. It reminds you that you are more than your tasks, more than your fears, more than the endless chase for enough. When you breathe with awareness, you return home to the present, where life is already happening. And in that return, stress loosens its grip. You realize that peace was never lost. It was only covered by noise. Another story speaks of a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors cried, "How unlucky!" But the farmer simply said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned with 2 wild horses. The neighbors said, "How fortunate." The farmer again said, "Maybe." Later, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, fell, and broke his leg. The neighbors cried, "How terrible." The farmer said, "Maybe." Soon after, soldiers came to the village, taking young men for war, but the farmer's son was spared because of his broken leg. What seems like disaster today may become blessing tomorrow, and what seems like fortune may bring challenge. Stress arises when we demand certainty, when we judge each moment too quickly. But life is vast, and outcomes unfold beyond our control. When we release the need to label everything as good or bad, when we rest in the maybe, stress eases. We learn to ride the waves instead of fighting them. This practice does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean ignoring responsibility or pretending problems do not exist. It means facing life with clarity, not panic. A calm mind sees solutions more clearly than a stressed mind ever can. A calm heart listens more deeply, responds with compassion instead of anger. This is why Buddhist teachings speak of calmness not as weakness, but as strength. The quiet strength of the tree that bends in the wind but does not break. The gentle strength of water that shapes stone over time. The steady strength of the mountain that stands unmoved as clouds drift by. Stress wants to convince you that you are powerless. Calm reminds you that power lies in presence, in awareness, in choosing your response. Think again of your own life. How often do you rush without noticing the taste of your food, the sound of your loved one's voice, the warmth of the sun on your skin? Stress steals these moments by convincing you that peace is only later, only after this task, this payment, this success. But later never arrives. The truth is, peace is always now. Each moment is a chance to pause, to breathe, to live fully. Even in difficulty, there is beauty. Even in pain, there is awareness. When you see this, the grip of stress loosens. You are no longer running. You are present, alive, free. As this first step of our journey closes, let the image remain in your mind. Stress is not the enemy. It is the teacher, showing you where you are clinging, where you are resisting. It reveals the gap between how life is and how you demand it to be. And in that gap lies your opportunity. By breathing, by pausing, by noticing, you transform stress from tormentor to guide. It leads you inward to the calm that was always waiting. This is not theory. It is practice. Each breath is your chance to begin again, to lay down the glass, to step out of the storm, and remember that you are the sky, vast and unshaken, holding it all. And as we move forward, we will step from this place of calm into another great struggle of modern life. The endless chase for money, the belief that happiness waits only when we finally have enough. Stress whispers that we are behind, but money shouts that we are never complete. Together, these voices keep us restless. Yet just as stress can be transformed through awareness, so too can our relationship with wealth and security. The path ahead will reveal that freedom is not found in numbers on a screen, but in the way the heart learns to live with contentment. Money has become the measure of worth in the modern world. For many, it is not simply a tool, but the very foundation of identity, safety, and meaning. People rise before dawn to chase it. They sacrifice time, health, and even love to secure it, believing that when they finally have enough, peace will arrive. Yet the finish line always moves. The promotion that once seemed like salvation becomes only another rung in the ladder. The new house that felt like success quickly fills with new bills, new worries, new comparisons. The heart whispers, "If only I had more," and the cycle continues without end. This is the hunger of modern life. Not the hunger of the body, but the hunger of the mind, always craving, never satisfied. Like drinking salt water to quench thirst, the more we consume, the more parched we become. Consider the young professional who works 60 hours a week, climbing higher and higher, yet lying awake at night with anxiety about the future. Consider the single parent who juggles 2 jobs, believing that rest must wait until security is finally built, yet who feels no closer to safety, no matter how hard they work. Consider the retiree who saved for decades, but now fears losing it all to illness or the markets. These lives are not rare. They are the story of millions. The fear of not having enough haunts rich and poor alike. Poverty brings real suffering, yes, but wealth does not guarantee freedom. Both can be shackled by the same fear. The belief that peace is always one step beyond the present, always out of reach. Buddhist wisdom names this cycle clearly. It is the trap of craving, the illusion that happiness is dependent on something outside ourselves. Craving itself is not evil. It is natural to want food, shelter, safety. But when craving becomes endless, when it defines our identity, it creates suffering. Imagine a wheel spinning endlessly. No matter how fast you run, you cannot get off because the mind itself keeps turning it. The Buddha once said that even if gold coins rained from the sky, desire would not be satisfied. The heart would still say, "More." This is why true freedom is never about the amount of money you hold, but the relationship you have with it. 2 people can earn the same income. One feels rich because they live with gratitude and sufficiency. The other feels poor because they live with constant comparison and fear. The numbers do not decide peace. The mind does. Think of a man who walks through a marketplace. He sees stalls of shining objects, food, clothes, treasures. His eyes dart everywhere. His heart races, and he spends all his energy chasing one thing after another. No matter how much he collects, he feels restless because he fears missing the next stall, the next prize. Another man walks the same market, but with calm eyes. He sees the beauty, he admires, he enjoys, but he is not enslaved by craving. He takes only what is needed, and his heart rests. The market is the same, but the experience is different. Life is like this marketplace. The difference lies not in what is offered, but in how we meet it. In modern life, money often disguises itself as security. We believe that if we accumulate enough, the storms of life cannot touch us. But no number can shield us from sickness, from aging, from death, from the unpredictability of events. History shows fortunes lost overnight, markets collapsing, disasters striking without warning. True security, as the teachings remind us, comes not from clinging to what can be lost, but from building inner stability that cannot be shaken. When you know how to rest in awareness, when you understand impermanence deeply, fear lessens. You still work, you still earn, but you no longer mistake money for your foundation. Your foundation becomes clarity, compassion, mindfulness, the wealth of the heart that no thief, no storm, no market can ever steal. Imagine holding sand in your fist. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. Money is like that sand. When we cling, we lose peace. But when we hold it with open hands, we can use it wisely, share it, and still remain free. The Buddha taught generosity as a direct antidote to the fear of not enough. When you give even a little, you train the heart to trust abundance, to release the chains of greed. A single act of generosity reminds you that you already have something to offer, that you are not defined by lack. And the paradox is clear. The more we give, the less we fear, because generosity opens the heart to a wealth far greater than coins. There is a story of a poor woman who came to the Buddha with nothing but a small piece of cloth. She worried it was too little to offer. But the Buddha received it with great joy, saying her gift was as vast as any king's because it was given with sincerity. This story reveals the truth. It is not the size of the offering, but the spirit behind it. Generosity transforms poverty into richness because it changes the heart. A wealthy man who gives nothing remains impoverished in spirit, while one who shares even a smile, a kind word, or a moment of presence lives in abundance. Money may buy comfort, but it cannot buy freedom. Freedom arises when the heart lets go of endless craving and discovers the richness of enough. Think for a moment of your own life. How often do you measure your worth by your income, your possessions, your status compared to others? How often do you delay peace until the next paycheck, the next promotion, the next goal? And how often does that goal move the moment you reach it? This is not a personal failure. It is the nature of craving itself. The mind always whispers, not yet, not enough. But Buddhist wisdom whispers back, this moment, exactly as it is, can be enough. When you breathe deeply and notice the small blessings, the roof above you, the meal before you, the voice of a loved one, you touch a richness that money cannot buy. This richness is not about denying ambition or refusing to work. It is about working without being enslaved, earning without being defined, living without forgetting that the greatest wealth is already here. As we explore deeper, it becomes clear that money itself is neutral. It is neither good nor evil. It is the mind's attachment, the clinging and the fear that creates suffering. Like fire, money can warm or it can burn. It can cook a meal or destroy a home. The difference lies in how we use it, how we relate to it. When money becomes the master, stress, anxiety, and greed follow. When money becomes the servant, compassion and wisdom guide its use. This shift begins with awareness. It begins with asking, am I chasing money as if it were salvation? Or am I using money as a tool to support life, to support love, to support awakening? The first path leads to endless craving, the second to freedom. And so, as we pause at this point in our journey, we see that stress and money are not separate. Stress whispers that you are behind, that time is slipping. Money shouts that you are incomplete, that only more will save you. Together, they keep you restless. Yet Buddhist teachings remind us that calm and contentment are possible even in the midst of financial struggle. By shifting your relationship with money, by practicing generosity, by remembering the richness of enough, You step out of the chase. You still walk in the marketplace of life, but now with steady steps, clear eyes, and a heart unchained. The craving for money often begins as a whisper, but grows into a shout that drowns out everything else. It tells us we must work harder, sacrifice more, and delay rest until the dream of security is achieved. Yet the dream keeps slipping away. Many people believe that once they reach a certain salary, buy a certain house, or retire with a certain number in their accounts, they will finally exhale. But when that goal arrives, the mind quickly moves the line, demanding more. The pattern repeats endlessly, and the promised peace never comes. This is the suffering of never enough, a hunger that grows the more we feed it. It is not about poverty or wealth alone. Even billionaires confess to fear of loss. Even children of wealthy families often feel hollow. The problem is not the money itself, but the attachment to it. The belief that it can complete us. Buddhist wisdom points to impermanence as the great truth we often refuse to face. Everything changes. Markets rise and fall. Fortunes are made and lost. Health shifts, bodies age. Time carries us forward, whether we like it or not. To anchor our peace in money is to build a home on sand. The storms of life will shake it, and fear will always linger. But when we anchor in awareness, in compassion, in clarity, we discover a foundation that no storm can sweep away. This does not mean we stop working or abandon responsibility. It means we work without being enslaved. We earn without being consumed. We live without making wealth the master of our heart. True freedom comes not from possessing everything, but from realizing we already have enough to live, enough to breathe, enough to be. There is an image in the teachings of a man who spends his whole life searching for treasure, digging here and there, restless, never satisfied. All the while, beneath the floor of his own house lies a chest of gold. He never looks there, convinced that peace is somewhere else. This is how many live chasing outward wealth while ignoring the inner wealth of contentment, kindness, and awareness. When we pause, when we breathe, when we practice generosity, we uncover that inner treasure. It was always there, waiting to be seen. This treasure is not touched by markets, not threatened by loss, not dependent on more. It is the joy of being alive, the gratitude for what is already here, the recognition that life itself is the greatest gift. Consider a family gathered at dinner. The meal is simple, the home modest, but laughter fills the room. Compare this to a family dining in luxury, but each person lost in their own screen, disconnected, restless. Which one is richer? True wealth is not measured by numbers, but by presence, by connection, by love. The mind, however, often forgets this and chases illusions. Buddhist practice invites us to return, again and again, to what is real. The warmth of the breath, the kindness of a smile, the sound of a bird outside the window, these are treasures we overlook when caught in craving. When we remember them, we remember that wealth is not something to achieve in the future, but something to awaken to in the present. Generosity is the doorway. It may seem paradoxical, but giving is the surest way to free the heart from fear of lack. When we give, we affirm abundance. Even if we give a small act of coin, a meal, a kind word, the heart expands. The Buddha taught that the fragrance of a flower spreads by the wind, but the fragrance of generosity spreads in all directions without end. Acts of giving soften greed, dissolve comparison, and remind us that we are not separate from others. In truth, everyone shares the same desire for safety, the same wish for love, the same search for peace. When we give, we connect with this shared humanity. The walls of isolation crumble, and suddenly, life feels lighter. Money becomes not a chain, but a tool, a means to serve, to uplift, to create joy. Imagine a village struck by drought. One farmer hoards his grain, building walls, guarding fiercely, living in constant fear of thieves. Another farmer opens his storehouse, sharing with neighbors, planting seeds of trust and kindness. The first man may have more grain, but he is imprisoned by fear. The second may give away much, but he is rich in love, surrounded by gratitude and at peace. Which life would you choose? The choice is not about quantity, but about freedom. A heart that clings is always poor. A heart that shares is always rich. And yet, generosity is not only about money. It is about time, attention, presence. In a world where busyness is a badge of honor, giving someone your full attention may be the rarest gift of all. Sitting with a friend without checking your phone, listening to your child without rushing, being present with your partner without distraction. These acts reveal the true meaning of wealth. They cost nothing, yet they are priceless. The more we practice this kind of giving, the more we realize that we already have everything we need to live a rich life. Buddhist path does not deny the realities of money. Bills must be paid, children must be fed, work must be done. But it teaches us to hold money lightly, to use it wisely, and to never confuse it with our identity. We are not our salary. We are not our possessions. We are not the numbers in a bank account. We are awareness itself, vast and free, capable of love, capable of peace. When we forget this, money becomes a master. When we remember, money becomes a servant. And in that remembering, the endless chase ends. We may still work, still save, still plan, but the heart rests. Contentment blooms like a flower in spring, quietly, naturally, without forced dot. As we complete this reflection, let us pause and breathe. Inhale slowly, exhale fully. Notice the air entering your body, sustaining you without cost, without effort. This breath is proof that life gives freely. It asks for no payment, no condition. It simply sustains. In the same way, peace is available here and now, not after the next paycheck, not after the next success, but in this very moment. When we open to this truth, fear dissolves. We remember that while money can support life, it is not life itself. Life is already here, flowing with each breath, inviting us to live fully, generously, freely. And as we step forward, we carry this insight with us. Money is not the prison. Attachment is. Freedom is not found in accumulation, but in letting go. The richness of enough is available now. With this understanding, we move to the next great challenge of modern life, one that cuts even deeper than stress or money, the struggle of relationships. For even when we calm our stress and ease our fears about security, the heart still aches for connection. Love can bring joy, but also wounds. Relationships can uplift, but also break. In the next part of our journey, we will walk into this tender space, exploring how Buddhist wisdom offers healing for the pain of love, family, and human connection. When the heart seeks peace, it often looks to love. Relationships promise comfort, belonging, and safety. Yet for many, they also become the deepest source of pain. In the modern world, relationships carry pressures that our ancestors never faced. Couples must juggle careers, financial stress, constant digital distractions, and unspoken expectations of perfection. Families scatter across cities, friends are replaced by online connections, and many feel lonelier in a crowded room than they do sitting alone. The result is a paradox, surrounded by people, yet starved for true connection. Arguments repeat like broken records, misunderstandings grow into walls, and the very bonds meant to bring joy often become chains of resentment and disappointment. Consider the couple sitting at a restaurant, both staring at their phones, barely speaking. They are together in body, but absent in spirit. Consider the parent rushing home from work, too tired to listen to the child who has been waiting all day for a moment of attention. Consider the friendship strained by jealousy, the family divided by pride, the loneliness of someone scrolling endlessly online, searching for a connection that never truly satisfies. These moments reveal the quiet ache beneath modern life, the longing to be seen, heard, and loved as we are. Yet in the rush for achievement, many forget how to truly give and receive love. Buddhist wisdom does not promise a world without conflict, but it offers a way to meet relationships with clarity and compassion. At the heart of these teachings is the understanding that much of our pain in love comes from attachment and expectation. We want others to complete us, to fix our wounds, to fulfill the story in our mind of how life should be. When they fall short, as all humans do, we feel betrayed, abandoned, unloved. The Buddha taught that clinging to an idea of how others should behave is like grasping a thorn and then blaming the thorn for the pain. The thorn is not the problem. The grasping is. In relationships, suffering often arises not because of what the other person does, but because of the stories we create about them, the demands we place on them, the ways we resist who they truly are. Imagine holding a butterfly. If you grip it too tightly, you crush its wings. If you hold it with gentleness, it rests in your palm, free to stay or fly. Love is like that butterfly. When we cling, we suffocate it. When we give space, it flourishes. Buddhist practice teaches us to love without clinging, to care deeply without trying to control. This does not mean apathy or distance. It means allowing others to be themselves while we remain steady in our own awareness. In this freedom, relationships become lighter, more joyful, less burdened by fear. One of the most powerful practices is loving kindness, known as metta. It begins not with others, but with ourselves. Many try to pour love into relationships while their own hearts are empty, seeking validation instead of connection. Loving kindness teaches us to first whisper to ourselves, "May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I live with ease." At first, these words may feel strange, even false. But with repetition, they plant seeds in the soil of the heart. Slowly, the soil softens. We begin to treat ourselves with gentleness instead of judgment. And from this place, we extend the same wish to others. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. This practice shifts relationships because it changes the energy we bring to them. Instead of demanding, we begin to offer. Instead of clinging, we begin to trust. Instead of resenting, we begin to forgive. Think of a conflict you have faced. Perhaps a harsh word was spoken, or a wound left unhealed. The natural response is to fight back or to withdraw, to build walls for protection. But loving kindness offers another way. By silently wishing well even to those who hurt us, we soften the grip of anger. We may not excuse their behavior, but we free ourselves from carrying poison in our own heart. Hatred is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Compassion is the antidote. It allows us to heal even when the other does not change. It allows us to walk free, unchained by resentment. Relationships also suffer because of the illusion of permanence. We believe love will stay the same forever, but everything changes. People grow, feelings shift, circumstances evolve. When we deny this truth, we cling to a frozen picture of the past, and we suffer when reality moves on. Buddhist wisdom invites us to embrace impermanence, not as a threat, but as a reminder to cherish each moment. The hug you give today may not be repeated tomorrow. The words you speak now may be the last your loved one hears. When you remember impermanence, you listen more deeply, you forgive more quickly, you love more fully. Instead of waiting for perfection, you savor what is, knowing it is precious because it will not last forever. Consider the story of two monks walking by a river. They see a woman struggling to cross, and one monk carries her to the other side. Hours later, The other monk scolds him, saying monks are not supposed to touch women. The first monk replies, "I set her down at the river. Why are you still carrying her?" This story reflects relationships. We often carry old hurts, replaying them long after the moment has passed. Each replay fuels resentment, turning the wound into a prison. The practice is to set it down. To forgive does not mean to forget or to accept harm, but to stop carrying the burden in our own heart. When we put down the weight, we walk lighter. Relationships heal when we no longer chain them to the past. Modern life adds unique challenges. Social media creates constant comparison, making us believe others have perfect love while ours is flawed. Work schedules leave little space for intimacy. The pace of life leaves little time for silence, for listening, for presence. Yet the solution is not complicated. It begins with slowing down, with presence. To look into the eyes of your partner without distraction. To listen to your child's laughter without checking your phone. To sit with a friend and simply be. Presence is love. Without it, even the grandest gestures feel empty. With it, even the smallest acts, a touch, a smile, a word become profound. And so, as we pause here, we see that relationships need not be prisons of expectation and disappointment. They can become paths of awakening. Each conflict is a chance to practice patience. Each moment of misunderstanding is a chance to practice compassion. Each act of love is a chance to remember that the heart's greatest purpose is not to control or to demand, but to connect. When we bring awareness into relationships, we discover that love is not about possession, but about presence. Not about perfection, but about acceptance. Not about clinging, but about letting be. And in this way, relationships become not sources of endless pain, but doorways into freedom. Every heart longs to belong. It is a universal truth, as natural as the breath. From birth, we seek the gaze of another, the comfort of touch, the reassurance that we are safe and loved. Relationships form the web that holds our lives together. Yet within this web often lies tension, knots of misunderstanding, strands stretched until they break. The modern world has amplified this strain. Constant busyness leaves little room for tenderness. Technology promises connection, yet often delivers distraction. We text instead of speak, scroll instead of listen, post instead of share. The result is a growing emptiness, surrounded by people, yet lonely at the core. Loneliness in relationships is perhaps the most painful form because it hides behind closeness. To lie beside someone yet feel unseen, to live in the same house yet feel unheard, is a wound deeper than solitude. Buddhist teachings remind us that true connection begins not with the other, but with ourselves. If we cannot rest in our own awareness, we will demand from others what they cannot give. We will look for completion outside, forgetting that wholeness is already within. This is why mindfulness is the foundation of love. When you are present with yourself, aware of your breath, your feelings, your needs, you are able to be present with others without demanding they fill the emptiness. Presence is the gift that heals loneliness because it opens the space for genuine meeting. There is a story of the Buddha meeting a grieving mother whose child had died. She begged him to bring the child back. The Buddha told her to find a mustard seed from a household untouched by death. She searched, but every home had known loss. Through this journey, she realized she was not alone in her grief. Compassion arose not from fixing the loss, but from sharing in the universal human experience. Relationships heal when we remember this truth. We are not alone in our struggles. Every partner feels fear. Every parent feels worry. Every child feels longing. When we drop the illusion that others must be perfect, we meet them in shared humanity. And from that meeting grows understanding. Many relationships suffer because of unspoken expectations. We believe love means the other should read our minds. anticipate our needs, always agree, always support. When they fail, we feel betrayed. But expectations are invisible contracts we write without telling the other. They set traps that guarantee disappointment. Buddhist practice invites us to replace expectation with communication, to speak with honesty and listen with openness. Mindful speech is more than choosing kind words. It is speaking from the heart with clarity, without the poison of blame. Mindful listening is more than hearing. It is offering silence, allowing the other to reveal themselves without interruption. These simple acts dissolve countless conflicts, for much of the pain in relationships comes not from great betrayal, but from small moments of being unheard. In relationships is like fire. It begins with a spark, an unkind word, a forgotten task, a careless act, and soon it grows into flames that scorch both hearts. The Buddha taught that anger is like holding a hot coal with the intent to throw it at another. You are the one who gets burned. To meet anger with anger only deepens suffering. But when we pause, when we breathe, when we look deeply, we see that anger often hides fear or hurt. To respond with compassion instead of retaliation is to break the cycle. Imagine saying to your partner, not, "You never listen to me, but I feel unseen, and I long for your presence." One blames, the other reveals. One builds walls, the other builds bridges. Compassionate truth is not weakness. It is strength because it creates the possibility of healing. Forgiveness is the medicine of relationships. Without it, wounds harden into scars that block intimacy. With it, even deep hurts can be transformed. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing harm. It means choosing not to carry the burden of resentment any longer. It means setting down the heavy bag of anger that weighs on your own heart. The story of the two monks by the river reminds us that we often carry old hurts long after the moment has passed. To forgive is to finally set them down. This freedom benefits not only the relationship, but also our own well-being. Scientific studies now echo what ancient wisdom taught. Forgiveness lowers stress, eases the body, brings peace to the mind. But beyond science, forgiveness restores the heart's capacity to love fully. Without walls. Modern love is also tested by comparison. Social media fills screens with images of couples laughing, families smiling, friends traveling. Rarely do we see the arguments, the tears, the silences. Believing these images, we measure our relationships against illusions and find them lacking. But Buddhist practice teaches us to look directly, not through the lens of comparison. To see your partner as they are, your family as they are, your friends as they are, imperfect, changing, human. True love is not the absence of flaws, but the embrace of them. When we accept imperfection, relationships stop being endless projects to fix and become living practices of compassion. Another teaching speaks of interbeing, the truth that nothing exists in isolation. Just as a flower contains the rain, the sun, the soil, the gardener, so too do we contain one another. Your smile depends on another's kindness. Your peace depends on another's care. To harm another is to harm yourself. To love another is to love yourself. This truth, when realized, transforms relationships. It dissolves the illusion of separation, reminding us that every harsh word spoken echoes back. Every act of kindness ripples outward. When you see interbeing, you treat your loved ones with greater tenderness, because you know their well-being and yours are one. And so, relationships become a path of practice. They are not obstacles to enlightenment, but opportunities for it. Each conflict is a chance to cultivate patience. Each moment of irritation is a chance to cultivate compassion. Each expression of love is a chance to cultivate joy. The home, the workplace, the family table all become temples of practice when entered with awareness. Love becomes less about romance and more about awakening. Less about possession and more about presence. Less about clinging and more about letting go. As we close this part of the journey, let us reflect. Stress and money reveal the weight of modern life, but relationships reveal the heart of it. To be human is to seek connection. To suffer in love is to suffer deeply. Yet Buddhist wisdom offers not escape, but transformation. By practicing mindfulness, loving kindness, compassion, forgiveness, and the understanding of impermanence, we heal the wounds of connection. We learn to hold love lightly, to cherish it fully, to release it when it must change, and to rest in the awareness that nothing is truly separate. In this way, relationships become not prisons of pain, but paths of liberation. And as we step forward, we carry this awareness into the next struggle of modern life: anxiety. Even when relationships are healed, the mind often trembles with fear of what may come. Worries about the future, about safety, about the unknown, keep many awake at night. Just as stress tightens the body and money haunts the mind, anxiety shadows the spirit, whispering of dangers not yet here. But as we will discover next, Buddhist teachings reveal how to face anxiety not by fighting it, but by seeing through it, transforming fear into calm awareness and trust. Anxiety is the shadow that follows countless people through their days. Unlike stress, which often has a clear cause and deadlines or demands, anxiety is more elusive. It is a restless tension that lingers even when nothing obvious is wrong. It hides in the chest, quickens the heart, unsettles the stomach, and whispers fears about a future that has not yet arrived. It can appear in the silence before sleep, when the mind begins to spin stories of everything that might go wrong. It can strike in a meeting, when self-doubt rises like a storm. It can color every moment of life with an invisible fog of dread. For some, it is a dull background hum. For others, it is a wave so strong it feels like drowning. Anxiety is not just a thought. It is a full-body experience, a storm in both mind and flesh. Consider the young man lying awake at night, replaying every conversation of the day, worrying he offended someone without knowing it. Consider the student whose stomach twists before every exam, even though they studied for hours. Consider the parent checking the locks 3 times before bed, haunted by visions of danger. These lives are not rare, they are familiar to millions. Anxiety convinces us that fear is safety, that worry is protection. The mind whispers, if you rehearse every danger, you will be ready. But worry does not prevent tomorrow's pain. It only steals today's peace. The tragedy of anxiety is that it convinces us to live in the future, yet life is only ever in the present. Asterisk. Buddhist wisdom approaches anxiety not as an enemy to be destroyed, but as a messenger to be understood. Anxiety reveals the mind's habit of clinging to control, of resisting uncertainty. We want guarantees that health will remain, that loved ones will stay, that success will continue. But life offers no such promises. Everything changes. Anxiety is the echo of our refusal to accept this truth. The more we demand certainty, the more fear grows. The Buddha taught that peace comes not from controlling the future, but from seeing clearly the present. When we rest in awareness, we realize that in this moment, this single breath, we are safe. The fears of tomorrow lose their grip when we anchor in the now. Imagine your thoughts as clouds moving across the sky. Anxiety tells you to chase them, to hold them, to fight them. But the practice is to rest as the sky itself vast, open, unshaken by passing weather. The clouds may be dark, the wind may howl, but the sky remains. In the same way, awareness holds every anxious thought without being defined by it. This shift changes everything. Instead of saying, I am anxious, we begin to say, anxiety is here. That small difference opens space between us and the feeling. In that space, freedom is born. We realize we are not the fear itself, but the witness of it. Anxiety may visit, but it cannot own us. Breathing is the doorway back to this freedom. In moments of anxiety, the breath becomes shallow, quick, as if preparing the body to run from a predator. But when we bring attention to the inhale and the exhale, we remind the body that it is safe. Each slow breath sends a signal to the nervous system. Calm is possible. The practice is simple yet profound. Place your hand on your chest, feel the rise and fall, and whisper inwardly, "Here I am. Here I breathe." This anchors you not in imagined futures, but in the reality of now. Even if anxiety continues to whisper, you are no longer lost in its story. You have returned home to the body, to awareness, to peace. There is a parable of a man chased by a tiger. He runs until he reaches the edge of a cliff. Clinging to a vine, he looks down and sees another tiger waiting below. As he hangs there, two mice begin gnawing at the vine. At that moment, he notices a strawberry growing nearby. He picks it, tastes it, and smiles. The story is not about ignoring danger, but about realizing that fear cannot erase the beauty of the present. Anxiety convinces us to miss the strawberries of life because we are staring only at tigers. But in truth, even in the midst of uncertainty, sweetness exists. The practice is to notice it, to taste it, to live it. Anxiety also grows from the stories we tell ourselves. The mind loves to predict disaster, to imagine worst-case scenarios. It plays movies of failure, rejection, loss. But these movies are not reality. They are thoughts powerful, convincing, but not truth. Buddhist practice teaches us to see thoughts as visitors. We do not have to fight them nor believe them. We can watch them come, sit, and leave. One powerful visualization is to imagine an empty chair. Each anxious thought enters the room, sits in the chair, and speaks. You listen kindly, but do not obey. When the thought has said its piece, it leaves. Another arrives, and you do the same. This practice separates awareness from identification. You are not drowning in the storm of thoughts. You are the host, calm, steady, unshaken. Compassion is also medicine for anxiety. Often, anxious people criticize themselves harshly. Why can't I calm down? What is wrong with me? But this judgment only deepens fear. The Buddha taught that compassion is like cool water poured on fire. Instead of fighting anxiety, we soothe it. When the heart whispers, "I am afraid," we respond gently. It is okay to be afraid. I am here with you. Speaking to ourselves with kindness transforms anxiety from an enemy into a wounded child needing comfort. The body softens, the mind quiets, and space for peace appears. This is not weakness. It is the greatest strength, to meet fear not with violence, but with tenderness. Anxiety may never vanish completely, because uncertainty is woven into life itself. But Buddhist wisdom teaches us that freedom does not come from eliminating fear. It comes from learning to live with it wisely. Just as waves never stop in the ocean, anxious thoughts may never stop in the mind. But like a skilled sailor, we can learn to navigate them. We can breathe, observe, and steer with awareness. The waves may rise, but they need not sink us. The ocean is vast, and we are deeper than the waves. And so, as we stand here, we see that anxiety is not a curse, but a teacher. It reveals our longing for certainty, our clinging to control, our forgetting of the present. When we meet it with awareness, breath, compassion, and the recognition of impermanence, its power fades. It may still whisper, but it no longer rules. We begin to taste the strawberry, even while the tigers wait. We begin to live fully, not in fear of tomorrow, but in the richness of today. Anxiety often disguises itself as preparation. The mind whispers, "If I worry enough, I will be ready." It promises safety through vigilance, but in truth, it delivers exhaustion. We replay conversations, imagine disasters, calculate outcomes that never arrive. Anxiety steals the joy of the present by chaining us to 1,000 possible futures. Yet Buddhist wisdom reminds us the future is not here. Only the present exists, and the present is where peace resides. Worrying about tomorrow is like carrying an umbrella every day for storms that never come. You walk burdened and wet with sweat while the sun shines above you. When the rain does fall, the umbrella may help, but carrying it forever steals more peace than the storm itself. Imagine sitting by a river. Leaves float by on the current, each one carrying a worry, a bill, a diagnosis, a rejection, a failure. Anxiety convinces you to jump into the river, to chase every leaf, to grasp and hold. But the practice is to stay on the bank, to watch the leaves drift, to notice them without diving in. Thoughts are like those leaves passing temporary. When you remember this, anxiety loses its grip. You no longer drown in the river. You rest on the shore, watching with clarity. The thoughts continue, but you are free. Modern life amplifies anxiety because of constant information. News cycles shout of disasters. Social media displays perfection to compare against. And technology keeps us connected to worries at all hours. The nervous system never rests. Yet the antidote is not isolation, but mindful consumption. Choosing when to engage, when to turn off, when to step into silence is an act of freedom. Silence is not absence. It is presence. In silence, the anxious mind finds space to breathe. In silence, the heart remembers its natural rhythm. The Buddha often sought quiet forests, not to escape the world, but to remember himself. In our own lives, even a few minutes of silence each day can be a sanctuary. Turn off the noise, close the eyes, breathe, and return. Anxiety also thrives on perfectionism. The fear of making mistakes, of disappointing others, of not being good enough, fuels endless self-doubt. We chase an image of flawless living that does not exist. Buddhist teachings invite us to embrace imperfection as truth. The Japanese art of kintsugi repairs broken pottery with gold, highlighting cracks instead of hiding them. In the same way, our flaws and mistakes can become lines of wisdom when embraced with compassion. Anxiety says, you must be perfect to be safe. Awareness says, you are already enough, even as you grow. This shift dissolves fear, replacing it with gentle courage to live as we are. There is another story of a monk walking through a village where people insulted him. Instead of reacting, he asked, if someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, who does the gift belong to? The villagers answered, to the one who offered. The monk replied, then your anger remains with you, for I do not accept it. Anxiety is like those insults, offered again and again by the mind. If we accept them, we suffer. If we let them pass, they return to silence. This practice does not erase anxious thoughts, but teaches us not to take them in, not to let them define us. The thought says, you will fail. We smile and say, I hear you, and let it drift away. Freedom is not in stopping thoughts, but in no longer being ruled by them. Compassion practices deepen this freedom. When anxiety arises, instead of tightening against it, we soften. Place a hand on the heart and whisper, it is okay. Fear is here, but I am safe. This act of self-kindness rewires the body, turning fight or flight into rest and heal. It is not indulgence. It is medicine. Just as a frightened child needs comfort, the anxious mind needs compassion. The Buddha compared compassion to a mother's love, boundless and unconditional. Bringing this love to ourselves transforms anxiety from an enemy into an experience we can hold gently, like a trembling bird in our hands until it quiets. Over time, practice changes our relationship with fear. Instead of fighting it, we learn to see through it. Fear predicts danger, but danger is often absent. By observing anxiety as weather, as passing clouds, we train ourselves not to confuse forecast with reality. The storm may look dark, but it passes. The sky remains. Each moment we choose awareness over panic. Each breath we choose presence over projection. We strengthen the roots of calm. Like a tree swaying in wind, we bend but do not break. We live with fear, yet free from its tyranny. The greatest gift of Buddhist practice is trust, not blind trust in outcomes, but trust in our capacity to meet whatever comes. Anxiety thrives on the question, what if I cannot handle it? Awareness answers, you can handle this breath, and the next, and the next. Life unfolds one moment at a time. When we meet each moment as it arrives, with clarity and compassion, fear loses its future. Trust grows. Peace deepens. We realize we need not control tomorrow to rest in today. And so, as we close this part of the journey, we see anxiety for what it is, a habit of the mind, not a sentence of the soul. It arises from craving certainty, resisting impermanence, forgetting the present. But within the same mind that creates anxiety lies the key to freedom. Through breath, awareness, compassion, and trust, we transform fear into teacher, panic into presence. The anxious mind may still whisper, but the heart answers with calm. Life continues with uncertainty, but we walk it with steady steps, unshaken, a live dot from here. We move to another fire that often burns even hotter than anxiety, anger. While anxiety looks to the future with fear, anger looks to the present with blame. It erupts in families, in workplaces, in nations, leaving scars on hearts and lives. Yet just as anxiety can be transformed through awareness, anger too can become a doorway to wisdom and compassion. Anger is fire. It burns quickly, often without warning, and once lit, it consumes everything in its path. Words spoken in anger leave scars that no apology can fully erase. Actions taken in rage can destroy relationships, careers, even lives. Anger feels powerful in the moment, like a weapon that protects us, but in truth, it harms us most of all. The Buddha compared anger to holding a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at another. We are the ones who get burned first. And yet, in the modern world, anger has become a daily companion. We see it on highways where strangers scream at each other through glass. We see it in offices where quiet resentment simmers under forced smiles. We see it in homes where unspoken frustrations explode into cruel words. Online, anger spreads faster than kindness, as millions share outrage with a click. Society rewards anger as passion, as strength, as power. But beneath the surface, it is only suffering an inner fire that devours peace. Consider a parent exhausted after a long day, snapping at a child for a small mistake. The child's eyes fill with tears, not because of the mistake, but because of the sting of rejection. The parent may regret it instantly, but the harm has already been done. Or think of two partners arguing late into the night, each insisting on being right, voices rising, silence following like a wall. Or imagine a worker mistreated by a manager, carrying silent resentment until it erupts at an innocent colleague. These are ordinary lives, yet anger twists them into painful dramas. What begins as a spark of frustration, if not understood, grows into flames that burn everyone nearby. Buddhist wisdom does not ask us to suppress anger or pretend it is not there. Suppression only buries the fire, allowing it to smolder until it explodes later. Instead, the teachings invite us to look deeply into anger, to understand its true nature. Anger is not born out of strength, but out of pain. Beneath every outburst lies hurt, fear, disappointment, or unmet need. When we shout, we are often crying out for recognition, for safety, for love. To see anger in this way is to soften toward it. It is not an enemy to kill, but a child to comfort. This shift transforms the way we respond, turning violence into compassion, turning reaction into wisdom, One practice is to pause before the flame spreads. When anger rises, the body reveals it. The heart beats faster, the breath shortens, the face heats. If in that moment we can take 3 conscious breaths, we create space between the feeling and the reaction. In those breaths, we remember, I am not anger itself. Anger is visiting me. That small distance changes everything. Instead of exploding, we can choose to observe. Instead of reacting blindly, we can respond wisely. The anger may not vanish instantly, but it no longer controls us. We are no longer the coal burning in our own hand. Another powerful practice is to trace anger back to its root. Ask yourself, what is the hurt beneath this anger? What is the fear? What is the unmet need? Often, we find a tender wound hiding under the flames. A harsh word from a partner may trigger anger, but beneath it lies the fear of being unloved. A criticism at work may trigger rage, but beneath it lies the pain of feeling unseen. By seeing this truth, anger transforms into vulnerability, and vulnerability opens the door to healing. Instead of striking out, we can share honestly. I feel hurt. I feel afraid. I feel unseen. These words invite connection instead of conflict. They water the seeds of understanding instead of fueling the fire of division. There is a story of the Buddha guiding a monk consumed by anger. The Buddha asked, if someone gives you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The monk answered, to the one who offered it. The Buddha said, then when someone offers you anger and you do not accept it, it remains with them. This teaching reveals a profound freedom. We cannot stop others from expressing anger, but we can choose not to carry it. By refusing to receive the poison, we protect our own peace. Anger offered to us need not enter our heart. It can remain outside, returning to silence. This does not mean passivity or weakness. It means strength in not allowing another's fire to ignite our own. Modern science now echoes what these teachings revealed centuries ago. Anger floods the body with stress hormones, damages the heart, weakens immunity, and clouds judgment. Yet compassion and mindfulness reverse these effects, calming the nervous system and clearing the mind. But beyond biology, the practice of transforming anger reshapes our lives. Relationships heal when anger becomes understanding. Communities heal when outrage becomes dialogue. Nations heal when vengeance becomes forgiveness. The fire that destroys can become the fire that warms if tended with care. Think of water meeting fire. A single drop may hiss and vanish, but a steady flow can extinguish even the fiercest flame. Compassion is that water. To respond to anger with compassion is not natural. It is a choice, a training. When insulted, instead of reacting, we can pause and see the suffering in the one who insults. Hurt people hurt people. Their anger reveals their pain. When we see this, we do not excuse their behavior, but we no longer add fuel to the fire. We respond with calm, with clarity, with words that heal instead of harm. This is not weakness. It is the greatest strength, for it protects peace not only in us, but in others. And so, as we stand here, we recognize that anger is not destiny. It is a habit, a fire that can be transformed. Through breathing, through pausing, through looking deeply into its roots, we discover the truth. Anger is pain asking to be seen. When we see it, we can respond with compassion, and the fire loses its power. In this way, anger becomes not an enemy, but a teacher, guiding us toward greater patience, understanding, and love. Anger often feels like a storm that owns us. The sky darkens, lightning flashes, thunder shakes the air, and for a time, it seems as though nothing exists but the storm itself. But no storm lasts forever. The same is true for anger. It rises, peaks, and fades. Yet when we identify with it, when we say, I am angry, we chain ourselves to the storm. believing it defines us. Buddhist practice offers a different truth. Anger is not who we are. It is only a temporary visitor. By changing the way we relate to anger, we stop being its prisoner and become its witness. The storm still comes, but we stand as the sky itself, vast, open, untouched. Consider two drivers on a crowded road. One is cut off in traffic and immediately explodes, honking, shouting, carrying rage for hours. The other is cut off in the same way, but takes a breath, reminds himself that he too has made mistakes, and lets it go. The event was the same, but the experience was different. Anger is not in the world outside. It is in how we hold it. The Buddha compared anger to a weapon we wield against ourselves. Each moment we nurture anger, we wound ourselves. Each moment we release it, we heal. Forgiveness is the path of releasing. Yet forgiveness is often misunderstood. People believe it means excusing harm or pretending wounds never happened. In truth, forgiveness is not about the other. It is about freeing our own heart. When we carry resentment, we drink poison daily, hoping the other will suffer. But the poison works on us instead. Forgiveness is pouring out that poison. It does not erase memory, but it transforms our relationship with it. We can say, "This hurt me, but I choose not to let it own me anymore." In that choice, we reclaim our peace. There is a parable of two monks imprisoned unjustly. Years later, one monk speaks of his bitterness, saying he cannot forgive their captors. The other replies, "Then you are still in prison." This story reveals the truth. Forgiveness is not a gift to the oppressor, but liberation for ourselves. By holding anger, we remain bound. By releasing it, we walk free. This does not mean we allow harm to continue. Boundaries and justice are important, but we can protect ourselves without carrying hatred in our hearts. Justice without hate is clarity. Justice with hate is vengeance, and vengeance burns the one who carries it. Modern relationships suffer when anger is left unexamined. Partners lash out over small things, not realizing deeper wounds fuel the fire. Parents scold children harshly, unaware that fear for their child's future drives the outburst. Friends grow distant because pride prevents them from softening. Communities fracture because resentment passes silently from one generation to the next. Yet all of these can be healed by the same practice: looking deeply, speaking honestly, listening compassionately. Anger thrives in silence and misunderstanding. It dissolves in presence and truth. When we sit down, breathe, and speak from the heart, "I feel hurt, I feel scared, I need understanding," the fire cools. And so, as we close this part of the journey, we see anxiety for what it is: a habit of the mind, not a sentence of the soul. It arises from craving certainty, resisting impermanence, forgetting the present. But within the same mind that creates anxiety lies the key to freedom. Through breath, awareness, compassion, and trust, we transform fear into teacher, panic into presence. The anxious mind may still whisper, but the heart answers with calm. Life continues with uncertainty, but we walk it with steady steps, unshaken, alive. From here, we move to another fire that often burns even hotter than anxiety: anger. While anxiety looks to the future with fear, anger looks to the present with blame. It erupts in families, in workplaces, in nations, leaving scars on hearts and lives. Yet just as anxiety can be transformed through awareness, anger too can become a doorway to wisdom and compassion. Anger is fire. It burns quickly, often without warning, and once lit, it consumes everything in its path. Words spoken in anger leave scars that no apology can fully erase. Actions taken in rage can destroy relationships, careers, even lives. Anger feels powerful in the moment, like a weapon that protects us, but in truth, it harms us most of all. The Buddha compared anger to holding a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at another. We are the ones who get burned first. And yet, in the modern world, anger has become a daily companion. We see it on highways where strangers scream at each other through glass. We see it in offices where quiet resentment simmers under forced smiles. We see it in homes where unspoken frustrations explode into cruel words. Online, anger spreads faster than kindness as millions share outrage with a click. Society rewards anger as passion, as strength, as power. But beneath the surface, it is only suffering an inner fire that devours peace. Consider a parent exhausted after a long day, snapping at a child for a small mistake. The child's eyes fill with tears, not because of the mistake, but because of the sting of rejection. The parent may regret it instantly, but the harm has already been done. Or think of two partners arguing late into the night, each insisting on being right, voices rising, silence following like a wall. Or imagine a worker mistreated by a manager, carrying silent resentment until it erupts at an innocent colleague. These are ordinary lives, yet anger twists them into painful dramas. What begins as a spark of frustration, if not understood, grows into flames that burn everyone nearby. Buddhist wisdom does not ask us to suppress anger or pretend it is not there. Suppression only buries the fire, allowing it to smolder until it explodes later. Instead, the teachings invite us to look deeply into anger, to understand its true nature. Anger is not born out of strength, but out of pain. Beneath every outburst lies hurt, fear, disappointment, or unmet need. When we shout, we are often crying out for recognition, for safety, for love. To see anger in this way is to soften toward it. It is not an enemy to kill, but a child to comfort. This shift transforms the way we respond, turning violence into compassion, turning reaction into wisdom. One practice is to pause before the flame spreads. When anger rises, the body reveals it. The heart beats faster, the breath shortens, the face heats. If in that moment we can take 3 conscious breaths, we create space between the feeling and the reaction. In those breaths, we remember, I am not anger itself. Anger is visiting me. That small distance changes everything. Instead of exploding, we can choose to observe. Instead of reacting blindly, we can respond wisely. The anger may not vanish instantly, but it no longer controls us. We are no longer the coal burning in our own hand. Another powerful practice is to trace anger back to its root. Ask yourself, what is the hurt beneath this anger? What is the fear? What is the unmet need? Often, we find a tender wound hiding under the flames. A harsh word from a partner may trigger anger, but beneath it lies the fear of being unloved. A criticism at work may trigger rage, but beneath it lies the pain of feeling unseen. By seeing this truth, anger transforms into vulnerability, and vulnerability opens the door to healing. Instead of striking out, we can share honestly. I feel hurt. I feel afraid. I feel unseen. These words invite connection instead of conflict. They water the seeds of understanding instead of fueling the fire of division. There is a story of the Buddha guiding a monk consumed by anger. The Buddha asked, if someone gives you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The monk answered, to the one who offered it. The Buddha said, then when someone offers you anger and you do not accept it, it remains with them. This teaching reveals a profound freedom. We cannot stop others from expressing anger, but we can choose not to carry it. By refusing to receive the poison, we protect our own peace. Anger offered to us need not enter our heart. It can remain outside, returning to silence. This does not mean passivity or weakness. It means strength in not allowing another's fire to ignite our own. Modern science now echoes what these teachings revealed centuries ago. Anger floods the body with stress hormones, damages the heart, weakens immunity, and clouds judgment. Yet compassion and mindfulness reverse these effects, calming the nervous system and clearing the mind. But beyond biology, the practice of transforming anger reshapes our lives. Relationships heal when anger becomes understanding. Communities heal when outrage becomes dialogue. Nations heal when vengeance becomes forgiveness. The fire that destroys can become the fire that warms if tended with care. Think of water meeting fire. A single drop may hiss and vanish, but a steady flow can extinguish even the fiercest flame. Compassion is that water. To respond to anger with compassion is not natural. It is a choice, a training. When insulted, instead of reacting, we can pause and see the suffering in the one who insults. Hurt people hurt people. Their anger reveals their pain. When we see this, we do not excuse their behavior, but we no longer add fuel to the fire. We respond with calm, with clarity, with words that heal instead of harm. This is not weakness. It is the greatest strength, for it protects peace not only in us, but in others. And so, as we stand here, we recognize that anger is not destiny. It is a habit, a fire that can be transformed. Through breathing, through pausing, through looking deeply into its roots, we discover the truth. Anger is pain asking to be seen. When we see it, we can respond with compassion, and the fire loses its power. In this way, anger becomes not an enemy, but a teacher, guiding us toward greater patience, understanding, and love. Anger often feels like a storm that owns us. The sky darkens, lightning flashes, thunder shakes the air, and for a time, it seems as though nothing exists but the storm itself. But no storm lasts forever. The same is true for anger. It rises, peaks, and fades. Yet when we identify with it, when we say, "I am angry," we chain ourselves to the storm, believing it defines us. Buddhist practice offers a different truth. Anger is not who we are. It is only a temporary visitor. By changing the way we relate to anger, we stop being its prisoner and become its witness. The storm still comes, but we stand as the sky itself, vast, open, untouched. Consider two drivers on a crowded road. One is cut off in traffic and immediately explodes, honking, shouting, carrying rage for hours. The other is cut off in the same way, but takes a breath, reminds himself that he too has made mistakes, and lets it go. The event was the same, but the experience was different. Anger is not in the world outside. It is in how we hold it. The Buddha compared anger to a weapon we wield against ourselves. Each moment we nurture anger, we wound ourselves. Each moment we release it, we heal. Forgiveness is the path of releasing. Yet forgiveness is often misunderstood. People believe it means excusing harm or pretending wounds never happened. In truth, forgiveness is not about the other. It is about freeing our own heart. When we carry resentment, we drink poison daily, hoping the other will suffer. But the poison works on us instead. Forgiveness is pouring out that poison. It does not erase memory, but it transforms our relationship with it. We can say, "This hurt me, but I choose not to let it own me anymore." In that choice, we reclaim our peace. There is a parable of two monks imprisoned unjustly. Years later, one monk speaks of his bitterness, saying he cannot forgive their captors. The other replies, "Then you are still in prison." This story reveals the truth. Forgiveness is not a gift to the oppressor, but liberation for ourselves. By holding anger, we remain bound. By releasing it, we walk free. This does not mean we allow harm to continue. Boundaries and justice are important, but we can protect ourselves without carrying hatred in our hearts. Justice without hate is clarity. Justice with hate is vengeance, and vengeance burns the one who carries it. Modern relationships suffer when anger is left unexamined. Partners lash out over small things, not realizing deeper wounds fuel the fire. Parents scold children harshly, unaware that fear for their child's future drives the outburst. Friends grow distant because pride prevents them from softening. Communities fracture because resentment passes silently from one generation to the next. Yet all of these can be healed by the same practice: looking deeply, speaking honestly, listening compassionately. Anger thrives in silence and misunderstanding. It dissolves in presence and truth. When we sit down, breathe, and speak from the heart, I feel hurt, I feel scared, I need understanding, the fire cools. The other may not always respond with equal softness, but even then, our own heart rests easier, free from the burden of rage. The body teaches us about anger as well. Notice how anger tenses the jaw, hardens the chest, quickens the pulse. It is as if the body itself prepares for battle. But when we bring awareness to these sensations, we interrupt the cycle. Breathing into the tightness of the chest, relaxing the clenched fists, softening the shoulders. These simple acts remind the body it is safe. The mind follows the body. By calming the body, we calm the storm. This is why walking meditation, slow and mindful, is a powerful antidote to anger. Each step grounds us. Each breath releases heat. Each moment of awareness waters the seeds of peace. Think also of the role of patience. The Buddha taught that patience is the highest ascetic practice. It is not passive endurance, but active strength. To endure insult without hatred, to face delay without resentment, to meet difficulty with calm. This is true power. Anger urges us to react instantly, to strike back, to prove ourselves right. Patience allows us to pause, to choose, to respond with wisdom. Patience is the cool shade under which the fire cannot spread. When we cultivate patience, anger finds less fuel. The fire still sparks, but it cannot grow into flames. Compassion for others is essential, but so is compassion for ourselves. Many feel shame about their anger, judging themselves harshly after each outburst. But shame only adds another layer of suffering. The practice is to see anger clearly, without judgment, and to learn from it. Each flare of anger is a signal. Something in us is hurting. Instead of condemning ourselves, we can ask, what pain is calling for my attention? By meeting our own wounds with kindness, we prevent them from spilling harm onto others. Self-compassion turns anger into teacher, guiding us toward healing. The wider world offers endless opportunities to practice this. We see injustice, cruelty, corruption, and our anger rises. Rightly so, for anger often begins in the recognition of harm. But Buddhist wisdom distinguishes between anger that burns destructively and compassion that fuels action. We can oppose injustice without hatred. We can fight for fairness with clarity, with steadiness, with love for all, even those who cause harm. Hatred never ends hatred, the Buddha said. Only love ends hatred. Anger may ignite awareness, but only compassion sustains transformation. As we close this reflection, let us breathe together. Inhale slowly, feeling the warmth of life. Exhale fully, releasing tension, releasing heat. Remember, anger is not who you are. It is only a flame, and flames can be transformed. Each breath is water on the fire. Each act of patience is a cool breeze. Each moment of compassion is shade for the weary heart. In this way, anger becomes not a curse, but a doorway. Through it, we discover deeper understanding, forgiveness, and love. And so our journey continues. We have faced stress, money, relationships, anxiety, and now anger. Each is a weight, but each can be transformed. Ahead lies another burden, quieter but just as heavy: loneliness. Even in crowded cities, surrounded by voices and lights, many hearts feel isolated, unseen, untouched. Loneliness is the ache of our age, and Buddhist wisdom holds a lantern for this dark path as well. Loneliness is a silence that weighs heavy on the heart. It is not always the silence of an empty room. Sometimes it is the silence of sitting beside someone who does not truly see you. Sometimes it is the silence of scrolling through endless images of smiling faces online while feeling invisible yourself. In modern life, loneliness has become one of the most common but least spoken pains. Cities are crowded, offices are busy, social networks are full, yet millions confess to feeling profoundly alone. The paradox is painful. Surrounded by people, yet aching for connection. Loneliness does not depend on how many are around you. It depends on whether you feel truly understood, truly accepted, truly loved. Think of the elderly woman in a nursing home, her children too busy to visit, her days measured by the sound of the clock. Think of the teenager lying in bed, staring at a glowing phone, desperate for a message that does not arrive. Think of the man in a crowded subway, headphones in, face blank, surrounded yet isolated. These lives are ordinary, yet their ache is deep. Loneliness is not just an emotion. It is a wound. Studies show it affects the body like smoking or disease. But beyond science, it gnaws at the soul, whispering, "You are forgotten. You do not belong." Buddhist wisdom meets loneliness not with denial, but with deep compassion. It begins with the truth of interbeing, the understanding that nothing exists alone. A flower contains the sun, the rain, the soil, the gardener. In the same way, each of us contains countless others. Your breath depends on trees, your smile depends on kindness received, your peace depends on countless unseen hands. The illusion of separation fuels loneliness. The reality of interbeing dissolves it. When we see that we are woven into the fabric of life, that we are never truly isolated, the ache begins to soften. And yet, knowing this truth intellectually is not enough. The heart longs to feel connection directly. This is where mindfulness becomes practice. When we breathe with awareness, we touch life itself. The breath connects us to air, to the earth, to every being breathing alongside us. Right now, as you inhale, millions of others inhale. As you exhale, millions exhale. Loneliness shrinks when we remember that life is shared. We are not alone in our struggles, not alone in our fears, not alone in our hopes. Every human heart beats with the same longing. To feel this is to belong to humanity itself. There is a story of a young monk who felt deeply lonely even in the monastery. He confessed to his teacher, "I feel unseen, disconnected, unworthy." The teacher gave him a candle and asked him to sit in the dark. Lighting the candle, the monk saw its flame. The teacher said, "See how this flame lights the room? Your awareness is like this flame. Wherever you shine it, you create connection. Loneliness is not a punishment. It is a reminder to shine." The monk understood that loneliness was not proof of emptiness, but a call to bring presence. In bringing presence, we create warmth that connects us to others. One of the most profound practices for loneliness is loving kindness meditation. Sitting quietly, we send wishes. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. At first, it feels strange. How can simple words change anything? But slowly, the heart softens. The inner critic quiets. We begin to feel like a friend to ourselves instead of an enemy. Then we extend the wish outward. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. To friends, to strangers, even to those who hurt us. This practice dissolves the walls loneliness builds. It reminds us that we are connected by shared wishes. Everyone longs for happiness. Everyone fears suffering. In this shared longing, we are never truly alone. Modern life often tells us we must earn connection by being successful, beautiful, or entertaining. But Buddhist wisdom says belonging is our birthright. We do not need to prove our worth to be loved. We are worthy simply because we are alive. When we rest in this truth, the desperation of loneliness lessens. We can meet others not from a place of hunger, but from a place of fullness. Instead of grasping at attention, we can offer presence. Instead of fearing rejection, we can offer kindness. The paradox is that when we stop clinging for connection, true connection appears naturally. Imagine sitting with a friend who truly listens, not to reply, not to judge, but simply to be with you. That presence feels like water to a thirsty soul. We can give this gift to others, and in doing so, we heal our own loneliness. For when we give presence, we also receive it. Connection is not about taking. It is about sharing. The more we share our presence, the less isolated we feel. This is why service, compassion, and generosity are antidotes to loneliness. By helping others, we remember we are part of something greater. And yet, loneliness can also be a teacher. It reveals our longing for connection, not only with others, but with ourselves. Many run from solitude, fearing it confirms their emptiness. But Buddhist practice transforms solitude into sanctuary. To sit quietly, to breathe, to rest in awareness, is to discover that we are already complete. Loneliness says, "You are alone." Solitude answers, "You are whole." When we embrace solitude, loneliness loses its sting. We can be alone without being lonely, because we rest in connection with life itself. So loneliness, like stress, money, relationships, anxiety, and anger before it, is not an enemy but a doorway. It points to where healing is needed. It invites us to see interbeing, to practice mindfulness, to offer loving kindness, to transform solitude into sanctuary. In this way, what once felt like emptiness becomes space for compassion, space for love, space for peace. Loneliness, when it lingers, becomes a voice that whispers unkind stories. It says, "You are unwanted. You do not matter. You will always be alone." These stories dig deep, shaping how we see ourselves. Some respond by withdrawing further, believing they are unworthy of love. Others chase attention desperately, hoping any connection will fill the emptiness. Yet neither path heals the wound. Buddhist wisdom invites us to see these voices not as truth, but as passing clouds. The mind creates stories, but awareness can step back and ask, is this real? Or is this only thought? In that moment, a crack of light opens through the clouds. We realize we are not the voice of loneliness. We are the sky that holds it. Modern culture worsens loneliness by rewarding appearances over presence. A carefully curated photo online may gather hundreds of likes, yet the person posting it might sit alone, unseen. Applause does not equal connection. Busyness, too, hides loneliness. People pack calendars with meetings and social events, yet feel hollow when the noise fades. The truth is, loneliness cannot be cured by quantity of interactions, but by quality of presence. One genuine conversation, where hearts meet honestly, heals more than 100 shallow exchanges. This is why mindfulness is essential. Mindfulness allows us to be real, to be open, to be fully with another. Without it, even the most crowded life feels empty. There is a story of a monk who spent years meditating in solitude. When he returned to his village, people asked if he was lonely all that time. He smiled and said, "I was never alone, for I had the trees, the wind, the sky, and the breath. They were my companions." His words remind us that connection is not only with people, it is with all of life. The breeze that touches your face, the bird that sings outside your window, the ground beneath your feet, all are forms of connection. Loneliness shrinks when we expand our definition of relationship. We belong not only to families and friends, but to the earth, to the universe, to the mystery of life itself. Another practice for loneliness is gratitude. When loneliness says, You are abandoned. Gratitude replies, look how much has already been given. The roof above, the food on the table, the air in the lungs, none of these exist without countless others. Gratitude reveals invisible connections. Farmers, builders, teachers, strangers, we carry their gifts daily. When we pause to see this, we realize we are held by a vast web of support. Loneliness tells us we are forgotten, but gratitude shows us we are remembered in every detail of life. Each breath is a reminder, I am not separate. I am sustained. Still, the heart longs for human love, and Buddhist wisdom does not deny this. It simply teaches us to approach love with awareness. True connection is not about clinging or demanding, but about offering presence. When we show up fully listening without distraction, speaking with honesty, offering kindness without condition, we create real intimacy. Such moments do not require grand gestures. They live in the quiet acts, holding a hand, sharing silence, smiling at a stranger. These small seeds grow into forests of connection. When we plant them daily, loneliness fades. But perhaps the most radical teaching is this: we must befriend ourselves. Often loneliness is sharpest when we are at war with our own being. If we dislike who we are, then solitude feels unbearable. But when we learn to accept ourselves, to sit in silence and say, I am enough, then being alone becomes peace instead of punishment. Loving kindness meditation begins this process, but daily self-compassion sustains it. Treat yourself as you would treat a dear friend, with patience, with forgiveness, with encouragement. The more we befriend ourselves, the less desperate we become for others to fill the void. Then, when relationships come, they are built not on hunger, but on shared abundance. Think of the lotus, growing in muddy water. It does not reject the mud, but uses it to bloom. Loneliness is our mud. Painful, yes, but fertile. If we avoid it, we miss its lesson. If we embrace it, we grow. Loneliness teaches us to value presence, to cherish connection, to cultivate compassion. It deepens our empathy for others, because when we know the ache of being unseen, we vow not to let others feel unseen in our presence. In this way, loneliness transforms into a bridge, connecting us more deeply to the suffering and humanity of others. And so, loneliness is not the end of connection, but the beginning of true connection. It is the teacher that pushes us inward until we discover we were never truly alone. Life itself holds us, breath by breath. From this foundation, we step outward, offering presence, kindness, and love. And the paradox unfolds. When we stop running from loneliness, we discover belonging everywhere. As our journey continues, we move from loneliness to another weight of modern life: exhaustion. Not just the tiredness of the body, but the fatigue of the spirit. Burnout spreads silently through workplaces, families, and hearts. People feel drained even after sleep, numb even while living. Just as loneliness whispers, "You are alone," burnout whispers, "You are empty." Yet Buddhist wisdom holds practices to restore energy, joy, and balance. And so, in the next part, we will step into the quiet but urgent struggle of exhaustion, learning how to renew life from within. Exhaustion today is more than feeling tired. It is a deep weariness that seeps into the bones, into the spirit, leaving people numb even after a night of sleep. It is the quiet heaviness that makes mornings hard to face and evenings feel empty. Burnout, as the modern world names it, spreads like an invisible illness. It shows up in workplaces where employees are praised for working harder, faster, longer, until their energy is gone. It shows up in families where parents pour themselves into endless responsibilities with no time left for rest. It shows up in students, in caretakers, in leaders, in ordinary people who feel they must always keep moving, even when their inner flame is fading. Exhaustion is the shadow of a culture that celebrates busyness and forgets balance. Imagine the nurse who works double shifts, tending to others while her own health declines. Imagine the young professional, checking emails at midnight, believing success depends on never stopping. Imagine the parent who cannot remember the last time they sat quietly without being interrupted. These lives are everywhere, hidden behind polite smiles and casual, "I'm fine." Yet inside, many are running on empty, their inner wells dry. Exhaustion is not simply the lack of sleep. It is the loss of connection to rest, joy, and meaning. It is the soul's cry for balance. Buddhist wisdom sees this exhaustion as the result of imbalance between doing and being. The modern world worships doing, achieving, producing, fixing, climbing. But being, resting, breathing, noticing, simply existing has been forgotten. When we live only in doing, we become like a tree with roots cut shallow. The branches may grow wide, but a storm will topple it. Being is the root that nourishes action. Without it, all our doing becomes dry, brittle, and eventually collapses. The Buddha himself spoke of the middle way, a path avoiding extremes of indulgence and self-denial. In modern terms, it is also the path of avoiding extremes of endless work and endless distraction. It is the way of balance, where rest and activity support each other. One of the most powerful stories is of a monk walking through the forest with disciples. They saw a man straining to saw a tree with a dull blade. Sweat poured down his face, but the tree barely moved. The monk asked, "Why don't you stop to sharpen your saw?" The man replied, "I don't have time. I must keep sawing. This is exhaustion. Working harder and harder with less and less energy because we refuse to pause. Mindfulness is the sharpening of the saw. Rest is not wasted time. It is the renewal that makes effort effective. Without it, we collapse. With it, we thrive. Burnout often arises because people forget their own humanity. We treat ourselves as machines, measuring worth in productivity, believing rest is weakness. But machines break when overused, and so do hearts. Buddhist practice reminds us to treat ourselves with compassion, to recognize our limits, to honor our need for rest as we honor our need for food and water. The body is not an obstacle. It is a temple. When we listen to its signals, fatigue, pain, tension, we respect life itself. Ignoring them is not strength. It is blindness. True strength is to rest when rest is needed, to care when care is required. Mindfulness practice offers simple but profound medicine. To pause and take 3 conscious breaths, to walk slowly without rushing, to drink tea with full awareness. These small acts restore balance. They remind us that life is not only about reaching goals, but also about savoring moments. Rest does not always mean sleep. It can mean presence. When we are fully present, even ordinary activities become rest for the spirit. Washing dishes with awareness, listening to rain without distraction, sitting quietly with the breath, these are forms of deep rest. They water the roots that keep the tree alive. Another cause of exhaustion is the burden of carrying too much. People hold responsibilities, worries, and unspoken pressures without ever setting them down. It is like carrying a heavy backpack day and night, never removing it. Buddhist teachings compare this to carrying unnecessary stones. Much of what we carry, resentment, comparison, perfectionism, is not needed. Letting go lightens the load. This does not mean abandoning responsibility, but releasing what is not essential. When we ask, "What can I set down today?" we often find space to breathe. Even small acts of letting go a task delayed, a self-criticism silenced, a perfection replaced with good enough, create openings for rest. Joy is another antidote to exhaustion. Many chase rest by collapsing in front of screens, but this often leaves the heart emptier. True rest includes joy, the kind that nourishes the spirit. The Buddha spoke of joy as food for the journey, as necessary as bread for the body. Joy does not need grand events. It lives in simple things: a smile, a flower, a moment of laughter, a song. When we cultivate joy daily, we refill the well. Without joy, work becomes drudgery. With joy, even effort becomes light. Joy is not luxury. It is fuel. As we pause here, let us imagine the image of a candle. Burnout is the flame flickering, nearly gone, choked by wind. Rest and mindfulness are the glass that shelters it. Joy is the oxygen that feeds it. Balance is the hand that protects it. When these are present, the flame not only survives, but shines brightly, warming and guiding others. Exhaustion reminds us that we are not infinite. We are human, fragile, yet capable of renewal when we live wisely. The practice is to stop, to breathe, to rest, to remember that being is as sacred as doing. In that remembering, life regains its balance, and the flame burns steady once more. Exhaustion is not only physical, but deeply emotional. It is the emptiness felt when the heart no longer responds to beauty, when laughter feels forced, when even rest feels heavy. People describe it as a grayness, a fog that dulls the colors of life. They wake tired, move through days on autopilot, and fall asleep without peace. This numbness is not laziness. It is the body and spirit crying out for balance. Buddhist wisdom calls us to notice this cry, not ignore it. When the heart is tired, the practice is not to push harder, but to soften, to allow, to care. Just as a field must lie fallow to regain its fertility, the human spirit must pause to regain its strength. One reason exhaustion grows in modern life is the illusion of endless availability. Phones buzz day and night. Work follows us home. Messages demand instant replies. The line between labor and rest dissolves. We live as though always on, always ready, always accessible. This constant vigilance drains the mind like water leaking from a cracked jar. The Buddhist path offers a radical reminder. To be present does not mean to be available to every demand. To be present means to be here, fully, with what matters now. Setting boundaries, turning off devices, saying no when needed, these are acts of wisdom, not selfishness. Protecting your energy protects your life. There is a story of a monk who traveled long distances with disciples. Each day they walked until exhaustion, then stopped to rest, even if they had not reached their planned destination. One disciple asked, "Why not push further to finish faster?" The monk replied, "If we burn out today, we will not reach tomorrow." This story is the essence of balance. Life is not a sprint, but a journey. Rest is not a delay. It is part of the path. To pause is not to fall behind, but to ensure we can continue. In modern life, this wisdom is more urgent than ever. Burnout also arises from forgetting joy in the midst of duty. People believe they must earn joy, that it comes only after the work is done. But in truth, joy is what makes work possible. The Buddha encouraged the cultivation of wholesome joy as a practice equal to meditation. When we laugh with sincerity, when we appreciate beauty, when we savor food with gratitude, we restore energy. Joy is rest for the soul. Without it, we run dry. With it, even hard work becomes light. Imagine a musician playing a long concert. If they never smile, the performance becomes mechanical. But when they play with joy, energy flows not only through them, but to all who listen. Life is the same. Joy is the music that sustains the journey. The practice of mindful rest is simple yet transformative. Lie down or sit quietly. Breathe gently. Allow the body to relax, part by part, the face, the shoulders, the chest, the hands, the legs. Whisper inwardly, "I allow myself to rest." This is not sleep, though sleep may come. It is conscious rest, where the mind lets go of striving and the body finds its natural rhythm. Even 10 minutes of mindful rest can renew what hours of restless sleep cannot. In a world that glorifies exhaustion as proof of effort, giving yourself permission to rest is an act of courage. Another teaching is to live in rhythm with nature. The sun rises, the sun sets. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. Seasons change, trees shed leaves, then bloom again. Life itself is cycles of effort and renewal. But modern humans try to live as though always summer, always noon, always growth, never rest. This defies the truth of nature and leads to collapse. By honoring cycles, work balanced with rest, speech balanced with silence, activity balanced with stillness, we align with reality. In alignment, exhaustion eases and energy returns. Compassion for ourselves is essential in this healing. Many feel guilty for resting, believing it is wasted time. But Buddhist compassion says rest is sacred. Just as we would not demand a child run endlessly without pause, we must not demand it of ourselves. Resting is not abandoning responsibility. It is sustaining it. A rested heart loves more deeply. A rested mind works more clearly. A rested body serves more fully. Compassion begins with this truth. I, too, deserve care. When we honor this, we not only heal ourselves, but also become examples for others, showing that balance is possible in a world of exhaustion. Burnout often teaches us a painful but necessary lesson. Life is not sustainable without balance. The body collapses, the mind breaks, the heart goes numb. These are alarms ringing, urging us to return. To ignore them is to risk losing everything. To listen is to begin again, wiser and kinder. When we heed the call, exhaustion becomes a teacher, guiding us toward a gentler way of living. And so, as we close this reflection, let us breathe together. Inhale slowly, exhale fully. Feel the weight in your shoulders and allow it to drop. Feel the tension in your chest and allow it to soften. Whisper inwardly, I allow myself to rest. In that breath, balance begins. In that moment, exhaustion loosens its grip. The flame within steadies. The journey continues, not in frantic rush, but in steady peace. From here, we move to another burden of the human heart, regret. Exhaustion drains us in the present, but regret chains us to the past. Mistakes, mischances, words we wish we could take back, these become prisons of memory. Just as burnout steals today, regret steals yesterday. But Buddhist wisdom shows us how to release the weight of the past, transforming regret into compassion and freedom. Regret is a heavy stone carried in the heart. Unlike exhaustion, which drains us in the present, regret binds us to the past. It whispers, if only. Again and again, replaying old moments like broken film reels. If only I had chosen differently. If only I had spoken up. If only I had stayed silent. If only I had loved more, worked harder, left sooner, held on longer. These words haunt countless lives, keeping people awake at night, trapping them in memories that cannot be changed. Regret is the prison of wishing for a past that never was, and in that prison, peace feels far away. Think of the parent who missed their child's recital because of work, replaying that absence for years. Think of the man who walked away from love, wondering daily what might have been. Think of the woman who spoke in anger and lost a friendship forever. These stories are ordinary, yet heavy. Regret convinces us that our mistakes are permanent scars, that our failures define us, that the past is a chain dragging us down. But Buddhist wisdom offers a radical truth. The past does not exist anymore. It is memory, not reality. What exists is only this moment, alive, open, waiting. Regret steals from this moment by chaining us to shadows. Awareness sets us free. The Buddha taught impermanence as a key to liberation. Everything changes: moments, feelings, mistakes, even our own selves. Who we were yesterday is not who we are today. To cling to regret is to cling to a ghost. The self who made those choices no longer exists. Today's self is wiser, shaped by those very mistakes. Regret blinds us to this growth, but when we see clearly, we realize mistakes are not prisons. They are teachers. They carve wisdom into the heart. They deepen compassion, reminding us how fragile and human we are. Without mistakes, we would remain shallow. With them, we become deeper, more able to understand others' suffering. Asterisk, there is a story of a woman who went to the Buddha consumed by regret. She had spoken harshly to her mother before her mother died, and she could not forgive herself. The Buddha asked her to bring a candle and place it in the dark. When the candle lit the room, he said, "See how one small flame pushes back the darkness? So too can one act of kindness in the present push back the darkness of the past." The lesson is simple. Regret cannot be erased by wishing. It can only be transformed by living differently now. Every act of compassion today heals the wounds of yesterday. The past cannot return, but the present can shine brighter because of what was lost. Mindfulness practice teaches us to sit with regret without drowning in it. When regret arises, the body tightens, the heart aches. Instead of fighting it, we breathe into it. We notice, this is regret. This is pain from memory. By naming it, we create distance. By breathing with it, we soften its grip. Over time, we see regret not as punishment, but as a reminder to live fully, to speak with kindness, to act with awareness, so that future regrets do not grow. Regret becomes a teacher pointing us toward presence. Asterisk, forgiveness is also essential. Many lives chained by regrets, not because of what others did, but because of what they themselves did. They replay their failures, judging themselves harsher than they would ever judge another. But Buddhist compassion begins with the self. Forgiving ourselves is not denial. It is the recognition that we are human, that we stumble, that we learn. To hold on to regret forever is to deny ourselves the same compassion we wish for others. When we say, "I forgive myself," we are not erasing the past, but choosing not to let it poison the present. This choice opens space for healing, for freedom, for love. There is an image of a glass of muddy water. If we keep stirring, it remains unclear. But if we let it rest, the mud settles and the water clears. Regret is the stirring. Awareness is the resting. When we stop stirring old memories with endless if only, the heart begins to clear. The past settles. Peace emerges naturally, not by force, but by allowing. This does not mean we forget, but that we stop fighting ghosts. We bow to the past, thank it for its lessons, and release it to rest out. And so, regret, like stress, money, relationships, anxiety, anger, loneliness, and exhaustion before it, is not a life sentence. It is an invitation. It invites us to transform pain into compassion, mistakes into wisdom, memory into presence. The past cannot be changed, but it can be honored by how we live now. The present moment is the flame that lights the darkness of regret. Each breath is a chance to begin again. Each act of kindness is proof that the story is not finished. In this way, regret becomes not a chain, but a doorway into freedom, into forgiveness, into peace. Regret is often strongest in quiet moments. During the rush of work or the noise of daily tasks, the mind may be distracted. But in silence, lying in bed at night, walking alone, sitting without distraction, the past returns. Images replay. Words echo. Faces appear. We whisper to ourselves, "Why did I do that? Why didn't I do more? Why did I waste so much time?" These thoughts pierce the heart, and because we cannot change the past, they feel unbearable. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that while the past cannot be altered, the meaning we give it can. Regret is memory colored with judgment. By shifting the way we see, we shift the way we carry the past. Imagine a person planting seeds. Some grow into flowers, some into weeds. Looking back, they may regret planting the weeds. But if they learn from them, if they notice which soil nurtures beauty and which does not, those weeds become teachers. Regret is the same. Mistakes are weeds, but they reveal where growth must occur. Instead of cursing them forever, we can thank them for the lesson and then choose differently. The Buddha taught that every moment contains the possibility of beginning again. This truth frees us. The past does not condemn us. It guides us toward wiser choices now. Many carry regrets about relationships, words left unsaid, apologies never spoken, time wasted in pride. These regrets can be heavy, yet Buddhist compassion offers a path. If the person is still alive, we can reach out, speak, forgive, or simply show kindness. If they have passed, or if reconnection is impossible, we can honor them in our hearts through practice. Lighting a candle, sending a prayer, whispering words of forgiveness into the silence, these acts heal the heart. Connection does not end with absence. Our intention, our compassion, our awareness ripple outward. Even if the other never hears, the heart that offers forgiveness is freed. Self-regret is perhaps the deepest. People regret not becoming who they thought they should be. They regret wasted years, missed opportunities, roads not taken. They look at younger selves with disappointment and feel chained to failure. But Buddhist practice teaches impermanence, not only of things outside, but of ourselves. We are not the same person we were yesterday. The one who failed in the past is gone. The one who breathes now is new, shaped by all those experiences. Regret blinds us to this truth. But when we see it, we understand. The past self made mistakes, and the present self carries the wisdom of them. Instead of saying, "I am broken," we begin to say, "I have learned." This shift transforms regret into gratitude for growth. There is a story of a criminal who became a monk. His past was full of harm, his regret unbearable. Yet through practice, he transformed his life, becoming a source of compassion for others. His past did not vanish, but it no longer defined him. His story reveals that redemption is always possible. No matter how heavy the regret, no moment is too late to begin again. Each breath is a chance to step onto a new path. This truth is the essence of Buddhist freedom. The past is not destiny. The present is the seed of liberation. Another practice for regret is compassion toward others who suffer the same. When we realize our pain is shared, it loses some of its weight. Millions regret choices. Millions replay old words. Millions ache for second chances. When we see this, we realize we are not alone. Compassion grows, not only for ourselves, but for all. We can whisper, "May all who carry regret be free. May all who feel chained to the past find peace." This wish softens the heart. Our own regret becomes part of a greater human story. We stop isolating ourselves in shame and start connecting through compassion. The body also carries regret. Tension in the chest, heaviness in the shoulders, a knot in the stomach. These are physical echoes of memory. Mindful breathing and relaxation help release them. Place a hand on the heart, breathe deeply, and whisper, "I release." Each exhale lets go a little more. Over time, the body remembers peace. Regret may return, but the body learns to rest again. This embodied practice complements the mind's work. Healing regret is not only thinking differently, but living differently, breathing differently, embodying forgiveness. And so, regret is not an enemy, but a teacher. It teaches us to value presence, to act with awareness, to speak with kindness, to love while we can. It teaches us impermanence, reminding us not to waste the moments that remain. It teaches us compassion, both for ourselves and for others who stumble. When we embrace these lessons, regret loses its chains. The past remains part of our story, but it no longer defines our future. We bow to it, thank it, and step forward lighter, freer, more alive. As we continue, we move from the past to the present struggle of distraction. Even when regret loosens, the modern mind often cannot rest. Phones, screens, noise, endless demands pull attention in 1,000 directions. The heart longs for peace, but finds only fragments. Distraction is the restless tide of our age, scattering awareness, scattering life. Yet Buddhist wisdom offers practices to gather the mind, to return to presence, to discover peace in the midst of noise. Distraction today is constant. The moment we wake, the phone glows, demanding attention. News alerts, messages, emails, notifications, each one pulls the mind in a new direction. Before breakfast, we have already scattered our awareness 12 times. We move through the day like this, half listening in conversations, half working at desks, half living in our own lives. Distraction robs us of presence. It makes the world feel fragmented, as if we are never fully here. And in this restless state, peace feels impossible. The tragedy is not only that we lose focus, but that we lose life itself, moment by moment, slipping through our fingers while we stare at screens. Imagine a parent playing with a child, but glancing again and again at the phone. The child notices, even if no words are spoken. The message is clear: you are not enough to hold my attention. Imagine a friend sitting across a cafe table, nodding absent-mindedly while scrolling. The words spoken vanish into air. Imagine a person walking down the street, eyes glued to the screen, missing the sunset blazing across the sky. These are not rare. They are daily life. Distraction does not just steal focus, it steals connection, joy, intimacy, beauty. It steals the very heart of being alive. Buddhist wisdom calls this restless scattering the monkey mind. Like a monkey swinging from branch to branch, the mind leaps from thought to thought, craving stimulation, avoiding silence. In the Buddha's time, the monkey mind leapt through worries and desires. In our time, it leaps also through endless technology, amplified 1,000 times. The result is the same. The mind never rests. Yet Buddhist practice offers the antidote: mindfulness. Mindfulness is the art of gathering the mind, of calling it back to the present moment, again and again, with patience. It does not demand perfection. The mind will wander, but each time we return through breath, through awareness, through stillness, we strengthen presence. Presence is more than focus. It is life itself. When we are present, we taste food more deeply, hear music more clearly, feel touch more tenderly. We live instead of skimming. The Buddha compared the untrained mind to a vessel with many holes. Water poured in leaks out immediately. Presence is sealing the holes. With mindfulness, life no longer leaks away. It gathers, it stays, it nourishes. Consider the story of a farmer chasing his ox across the fields. He runs, shouts, struggles, exhausted. A monk watching asks, "Why do you chase so wildly?" The farmer says, "I cannot control it." The monk replies, "Sit still, and the ox will return." Our minds are like that ox. We chase them endlessly through distraction, but the more we chase, the more exhausted we become. When we sit still, breathe, and wait, the mind settles. It returns. Presence arises naturally when we stop running. Distraction often disguises itself as productivity. People multitask, juggling messages, tasks, and screens, believing they are achieving more. But science now confirms what Buddhist wisdom always knew: divided attention weakens everything. Multitasking scatters energy, leading to mistakes, shallow work, and deeper exhaustion. Mindfulness teaches the opposite: do one thing fully. When walking, just walk. When eating, just eat. When listening, just listen. These simple practices restore depth to life. Instead of doing many things poorly, we do each thing with clarity. And in clarity, peace arises. Another cause of distraction is discomfort with silence. Many avoid quiet moments because in silence, emotions surface. So they fill every gap with noise music, shows, endless scrolling. But Buddhist practice calls us back to silence as medicine. In silence, the mind settles. In silence, the heart reveals itself. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but gradually, silence becomes a friend. It is in silence that we rediscover who we are beneath the noise. Without silence, presence cannot grow. With silence, even brief, presence deepens naturally. One simple but profound practice is mindful breathing. Place attention on the inhale, on the exhale. Each time the mind drifts, gently return. This is training the mind like training a puppy patiently, kindly, without anger. Over time, the mind learns to stay. Another practice is mindful walking. Each step felt fully. The ground beneath, the body moving, the air touching the skin. In these simple acts, distraction loosens and presence grows. These practices are not escapes from life. They are life itself, lived fully in each breath, each step. And so, distraction, like regret before it, is not a curse but a signal. It reveals the mind's hunger, the spirit's restlessness. It invites us to return, to gather ourselves, to live. With mindfulness, with breath, with silence, we reclaim presence. And in presence, life shines again. Distraction is not only a matter of scattered focus. It is also a form of escape. Many turn to endless scrolling, constant music, or ceaseless activity because stillness feels threatening. When silence falls, the mind brings forward anxiety, sadness, or regret. So instead of facing these feelings, we drown them in noise. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that what we avoid only grows stronger. The emotions beneath distraction are like children knocking at the door. If we ignore them, they knock louder. If we open the door with compassion, they soften. Presence means facing ourselves fully, including the parts we fear. Only then does peace become possible. Modern technology has magnified this avoidance. Entire industries are built to capture attention, to keep minds hooked. Notifications, infinite feeds, auto-playing videos, all designed to exploit the restless nature of the monkey mind. People spend hours online without remembering what they saw. They feel drained, but cannot stop. This is not personal failure. It is conditioning. Yet Buddhist practice offers a way to reclaim freedom. Each moment of mindfulness is an act of resistance. Each time we choose to breathe instead of scroll, to listen instead of glance, to be instead of escape, we take back our life. Awareness becomes liberation. There is a story of a monk walking through a market. He hears shouting, smells food, sees chaos, yet remains calm, his steps steady. A man asks, "How can you be peaceful in such noise?" The monk replies, "The market is outside. My presence is inside. The two do not have to fight." This story reveals a truth. Distraction does not come from the world itself, but from how we relate to it. Even in noise, we can remain present. Even in chaos, we can rest in awareness. The world may clamor, but the mind can choose stillness. Distraction also weakens relationships. To be half present with loved ones is to give them only fragments of ourselves. A child senses when a parent's mind is elsewhere. A partner feels when attention is divided. A friend knows when listening is shallow. Presence is love. To give full attention is to say, "You matter. You are worthy of my time." When we are distracted, love weakens. When we are present, even briefly, love deepens. The Buddha taught that to love is to understand, but understanding is impossible without presence. Thus, presence is the foundation of all genuine connection. Another practice against distraction is mindful consumption. Just as the body weakens when fed only junk food, the mind weakens when fed constant noise, anger, or fear. We must choose carefully what we allow in. The Buddha spoke of sense impressions as food for the mind. What we read, watch, and hear shapes consciousness. To reduce distraction, we must nourish the mind with what brings peace, silence, kindness, wisdom, beauty. This does not mean rejecting the world, but discerning wisely. Ask, does this strengthen awareness or scatter it? With this awareness, distraction loses power. Patience is also key. The mind will wander. That is its nature. To grow frustrated only adds more restlessness. The practice is to return gently, again and again. Each return strengthens presence. Imagine training in music. At first, the notes stumble, but with patience, the melody emerges. Mindfulness is the same. At first, distraction dominates, but with patience, presence grows steady, and the music of life becomes clear. Distraction, at its core, is forgetting. Forgetting the breath, forgetting the moment, forgetting life as it is happening. Mindfulness is remembering. Remembering to breathe, to notice, to live. Each moment of remembering is victory. Each moment of presence is freedom. The more we remember, the more life opens, rich and whole. And so, distraction is not an enemy, but a teacher. It shows us where the mind is restless, where the heart is afraid, where presence is needed. When we meet it with awareness, we transform it. Noise becomes silence, restlessness becomes stillness, fragments become wholeness. In this way, distraction becomes a doorway to mindfulness, to freedom, to life itself. As our journey moves forward, we turn to the final shadow that lingers even after stress, money, relationships, anxiety, anger, loneliness, exhaustion, regret, and distraction have been explored. It is the ache of emptiness, the sense that even with success, even with comfort, something is missing. This quiet hunger haunts many in modern life. Yet Buddhist wisdom reveals how this emptiness is not a curse, but a call to awaken to deeper meaning, to a freedom beyond craving. Emptiness is the quiet ache that lingers even when life looks full. A person may have a steady job, a comfortable home, a family, even success by society's standards, yet still feel something missing. At night, lying awake, the question arises, is this all there is? It is not hunger of the body, but of the spirit, a hollow space no possession or achievement can fill. This emptiness haunts the modern world. We chase more and more wealth, more recognition, more pleasure, believing the next thing will finally satisfy. But once gained, the feeling returns, sometimes stronger than before. The cycle repeats endlessly, leaving the heart weary and the soul unsatisfied. Consider the celebrity adored by millions, yet confessing to deep loneliness. Consider the wealthy entrepreneur who achieves every goal yet feels restless. Consider the student who finishes years of study only to feel lost without direction. These stories reveal the same truth. Outer success cannot guarantee inner fulfillment. The heart craves something deeper, something lasting. Buddhist wisdom names this craving as the root of suffering. The endless cycle of wanting, grasping, and disappointment is the very wheel of dissatisfaction that keeps us bound. But Buddhist teachings also offer a profound solution. They do not deny emptiness, but reveal its true nature. The feeling of emptiness arises because we search for permanence in what is impermanent. We look for ultimate satisfaction in things that change: money, beauty, praise, relationships. When they shift, as all things do, the hollow returns. The path to freedom begins by seeing this clearly. To recognize impermanence is to stop expecting the impermanent to deliver lasting fulfillment. This recognition is not despair, but liberation. When we stop demanding what cannot be given, we begin to turn toward what can. There is a story of a monk who carried a precious porcelain bowl, admiring its beauty. One day, it slipped and shattered. The monk wept. His teacher asked, "Did you not know it would one day break?" The monk realized that his suffering came not from the bowl breaking, but from expecting it to last forever. In the same way, our emptiness comes not from life itself, but from expecting it to satisfy us permanently. By accepting impermanence, we soften the craving. We stop clinging to fragile bowls and begin to look for what does not break. What, then, is unbreakable? The Buddha pointed to awareness itself. Beneath cravings, beneath possessions, beneath all changing forms lies the stillness of awareness, the presence that simply is. When we rest in this awareness, even for a breath, the hunger quiets. The emptiness transforms into spaciousness. Instead of a hollow that aches, it becomes an openness that holds everything. Emptiness, seen deeply, is not lack but freedom. It is the space in which life can unfold. Mindfulness practice leads us here. When we sit quietly and breathe, we may at first feel the ache of emptiness. But instead of running, we stay. We watch it, breathe with it, allow it. Slowly, the edges soften. The emptiness becomes less frightening, more like a vast open sky than a hollow void. In that sky, peace appears. Joy appears. Not the joy of possession, but the joy of being. This joy is simple, steady, and does not depend on circumstances. It is the joy the Buddha called the happiness of letting go. Asterisk another path is compassion. When we turn attention outward, serving others, emptiness fades. The heart feels full, not by taking, but by giving. Acts of kindness, however small, connect us to something larger than ourselves. A smile, a helping hand, a listening ear, these fill the spirit in ways no material possession can. Fulfillment arises not from accumulation, but from connection, from love. The paradox is that by forgetting ourselves in compassion, we discover a self more whole than before. The modern world sells fulfillment as consumption. Buy this, achieve that, look like this, live like that. But Buddhist wisdom reveals fulfillment as presence, compassion, and awareness. The more we chase outwardly, the more hollow we feel. The more we turn inward and outward with awareness and love, the more whole we become. So emptiness, though painful, is not a curse. It is a signal, pointing us beyond surface pleasures toward deeper truth. It invites us to stop running, to stop grasping, to sit quietly and ask, what remains when craving falls silent? The answer is not absence, but presence, not hollowness, but spaciousness, not despair, but peace. In this way, emptiness becomes not the end of meaning, but the doorway to it. Emptiness often hides behind achievement. Many people believe, if I reach this milestone, then I will feel complete. So they study, they work, they strive. And when the milestone comes a diploma, a promotion, a marriage, a home, they celebrate for a moment. But soon after, the question arises again, is this all there is? The cycle begins anew. This is not because achievements are meaningless, but because they were never designed to give lasting peace. They are impermanent peaks on the mountain of life, beautiful to reach, but impossible to stay upon. Buddhist wisdom reminds us, fulfillment does not come from climbing higher, but from realizing the mountain itself is already sacred. One story tells of a king who asked the Buddha how to end his restlessness. The king had wealth, armies, palaces, yet still felt empty. The Buddha said, if you had the eyes to see, you would realize you already sit upon treasure. Peace is not found by adding more, but by wanting less. The king did not understand at first, but later, as he watched a simple monk smile while eating plain rice, he realized the truth. The monk was full because he desired nothing more than the moment. A king had everything but peace because he desired endlessly. This story echoes through centuries. Emptiness is not lack of things, but lack of peace with things as they are. The practice of mindfulness helps us rediscover this peace. Eating, we taste. Walking, we feel. Listening, we attend. The more present we become, the less hungry we feel. Fulfillment does not mean every desire disappears, but it means desires no longer rule us. We see them rise and fall like waves. We let them pass without chasing. And in that letting go, a quiet contentment grows down. Another doorway to fulfillment is gratitude. Emptiness thrives on what is missing. Gratitude thrives on what is present. When we pause to notice this breath, this body, this moment of safety, emptiness shrinks. Gratitude is not denial of pain, but recognition of gifts. Even in hardship, something sustains us. Air, food, kindness, connection. Gratitude shifts focus from scarcity to abundance. Each time we practice it, we fill the hollow with truth. Life already gives more than we often see. Compassion also transforms emptiness. When we serve others, our hearts expand. The hollow that once ached becomes space for love. A person visiting the sick, comforting the grieving, or teaching a child often reports feeling fuller than when chasing personal pleasure. This is not because pain vanished, but because love took root. The Buddha described compassion as the boundless state, limitless, inexhaustible. In compassion, there is no emptiness, only openness, a heart wide enough to hold the world. But perhaps the deepest teaching is this: emptiness itself is not to be feared. When seen clearly, emptiness is spaciousness. It is the freedom from clinging, the openness in which all things arise and pass. In Zen, a teacher once held up a cup and asked, "What makes this cup useful?" The students answered, "Its shape, its handle, its form." The teacher said, "No, what makes it useful is its emptiness. Without emptiness, it cannot hold tea." In the same way, the emptiness we fear is also what makes life possible. The hollow is not absence, but capacity. It is the space where joy, love, and peace can be poured out so the journey comes full circle. We began with stress, money, relationships, anxiety, anger, loneliness, exhaustion, regret, distraction, and now emptiness. Each pain, when met with awareness, revealed itself not as curse, but as doorway. Stress became a call to presence. Money became a lesson in simplicity. Relationships became a path of compassion. Anxiety became an invitation to breathe. Anger became a teacher of patience. Loneliness became a reminder of interconnection. Exhaustion became a call to balance. Regret became a lesson in forgiveness. Distraction became a practice of mindfulness. And emptiness, the final shadow, becomes the doorway to true fulfillment. The Buddhist path does not deny pain. It embraces it, transforms it, uses it as fuel for awakening. The pains of modern life are not obstacles, but invitations. They remind us to stop, to breathe, to see, to live. They remind us that peace is not far away, but here, now, in this breath, in this awareness. And when we walk this path, step by step, we discover that the fulfillment we sought outside has always been within God. So emptiness is not the end. It is the beginning of freedom, of compassion, of true joy. The hollow is the space in which the heart learns to love, the mind learns to rest, and the spirit learns to awaken. When we see this, the question, is this all there is? Dissolves. We realize this moment fully lived is enough. And in that realization, the search ends. Fulfillment is here. We have walked through 10 doors together, each one opening into a room of human struggle. We entered the room of stress, where the weight of modern life pressed down, and discovered that presence is lighter than pressure. We stepped into the room of money, where craving and fear often hide, and saw that simplicity and generosity bring more peace than endless accumulation. We visited the fragile room of relationships, where love and pain intertwine, and found that compassion and mindful listening create bonds stronger than pride. We crossed into the restless room of anxiety, where the future's shadow loomed, and learned that the breath anchors us in safety. We sat in the fiery room of anger, where blame burns, and realized that beneath the flames lies hurt calling for compassion. We entered the hollow room of loneliness, where silence aches, and discovered that interconnection is always present, that loving kindness builds bridges even in isolation. We journeyed into the weary room of exhaustion, where endless striving drained life's joy, and remembered that rest is not weakness, but medicine. We looked into the heavy room of regret, where memories haunted, and found that forgiveness and awareness free us from yesterday's chains. We paused in the noisy room of distraction, where the mind scattered, and practiced gathering presence, reclaiming life from fragments. Finally, we stood in the vast room of emptiness, where nothing seemed enough, and saw that emptiness is not lack, but space, the space where awareness, compassion, and joy can arise. 10 rooms, 10 pains, 10 lessons, and yet all are connected. Stress, money, relationships, anxiety, anger, loneliness, exhaustion, regret, distraction, emptiness, they are not separate struggles, but different faces of the same truth. The human heart longs for peace, but forgets where to find it. We search outward, but the Buddha gently points us inward. Each teaching, each story, each practice brings us back to the same doorway. This breath, this moment, this awareness. The path is simple, though not always easy. It asks us to pause when the world urges us to rush. It asks us to breathe when the mind urges us to scatter. It asks us to forgive when the heart urges us to cling. It asks us to let go when the ego urges us to grasp. Yet each small step transforms suffering into freedom. Each mindful breath is a seed of peace. Each act of compassion is a light in the darkness dot, and so the journey does not end here. This is not a conclusion, but an invitation. An invitation to practice not someday, not when life slows down, but now, in the very midst of stress, money, relationships, anxiety, anger, loneliness, exhaustion, regret, distraction, and emptiness. The practice is not separate from life. It is life itself, lived with awareness. Asterisk. Pause for a moment now. Breathe in. Feel the air enter, cool and alive. Breathe out. Feel the release, the letting go. In this simple act, you touch the essence of everything we have explored. Presence, awareness, peace. It is always available, hidden in plain sight, waiting for your attention. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." These words echo across centuries because they speak directly to our modern hearts. We will still face challenges. Stress will come, money will rise and fall. Relationships will test us. Anxiety will whisper. Anger will flare. Loneliness will ache. Exhaustion will press. Regret will return. Distraction will tempt. Emptiness will visit. But now we know, each of these is not an enemy, but a teacher. Each one carries within it the possibility of awakening. So when stress tightens, pause and breathe. When money worries, practice generosity. When relationships strain, listen with compassion. When anxiety stirs, return to the present. When anger flares, look for the hurt beneath. When loneliness weighs, remember interconnection. When exhaustion drains, allow rest. When regret haunts, practice forgiveness. When distraction scatters, gather the mind. When emptiness aches, rest in spaciousness. This is the path, not perfect, not finished, but living step by step. And each step matters. Each mindful act ripples outward, touching not only your life, but the lives of those around you. A calmer breath softens a conversation. A kind word heals a wound. A forgiving heart breaks a chain. A present mind brings light into a distracted world. This is how peace spreads, not through grand gestures, but through small, steady acts of awareness and compassion. As we close, carry this truth with you. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are not beyond healing. Within you lies the same awareness that sustained the Buddha, the same compassion that transforms suffering, the same breath that carries life itself. You do not need to wait for another day, another place, another self. You are already on the path, simply by listening, by breathing, by being here. May this journey remind you that every moment is a chance to begin again. May it give you courage to face your struggles with gentleness, to meet your pain with compassion, to live your life with awareness. And may you discover, again and again, that peace is not far away. It is here, now, within you. The story does not end. It begins each time you breathe,